I caught my fiancée in bed with my sister on my wedding day. That sentence, those 11 words, destroyed everything I thought I knew about love, family, and trust. One moment I was adjusting my veil in the bridal suite. The next, I was running through a December rainstorm in a $15,000 wedding dress, makeup streaking down my face, with nowhere to go and no one to call. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was what happened when I collapsed on those cathedral steps, soaking wet and completely shattered. Because that's when he found me. Adrian Voss, the most dangerous man in Miami, my ex-fiance's worst enemy. And everything got so much more complicated. If you want to see how this impossible night changed my entire life, stay with me until the end. And drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I love knowing how far these stories travel. The first thing you need to understand about my wedding day is that I almost didn't make it to the church. Not because of cold feet, not because of traffic or a forgotten bouquet or any of the normal disasters that derail carefully planned ceremonies. No, I almost didn't make it because at 4:47 p.m., exactly 2 hours and 13 minutes before I was supposed to walk down the aisle, I walked into the wrong room at the Fontainebleau Hotel and saw my fiancé fucking my sister against the bathroom vanity. I stood there for what felt like an hour, but was probably only 5 seconds. Long enough to see Marcus's hands tangled in Claire's hair, long enough to hear her moan his name, long enough for the world to tilt sideways and my stomach to drop through the floor. Then Claire's eyes opened, met mine in the mirror. She didn't even have the decency to look ashamed, just startled, like I'd interrupted something mildly inconvenient rather than obliterated my entire existence. "Lena," she started. I didn't wait to hear the rest. I ran, through the hallway, past the bridal suite where my mother and bridesmaids were drinking champagne and laughing, down the emergency stairs because I couldn't risk the elevator, couldn't risk anyone seeing me like this. My wedding dress, this ridiculous confection of silk and lace that cost more than my first car, caught on the railing and tore. I didn't care. I just kept running. I hit the lobby at a full sprint. The concierge called after me. I ignored him. Outside, the December air slammed into me like a wall. Miami doesn't get cold often, but when it does, it's the kind of cold that cuts straight through expensive fabric and lands in your bones. The sky was doing that weird thing where it can't decide between rain and not rain, just spitting cold drops at random intervals. I had my phone clutched in one hand, my other hand gathering up yards of white fabric so I wouldn't trip. My mind was spinning, trying to figure out what to do, who to call, how this was even real. Then my phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. "Let me explain." I stared at those 3 words until they blurred. Let him explain. Like there was an explanation that would make this okay. Like there were words in the English language that could possibly justify what I'd just seen. Another text. "Where are you?" People are asking questions. Of course they were. The bride had disappeared 2 hours before the ceremony. That would cause questions. A third text. "Come back. We'll talk after. We can still do this." That one made me laugh. An ugly broken sound that scared a passing couple. We can still do this, still get married, still stand up in front of 300 people and promise forever to each other while my sister, my own goddamn sister, sat in the 3rd row wearing that smug smile she always wore when she got something I wanted. How long had this been going on? That thought hit me so hard I had to stop walking. I stood there on Ocean Drive, traffic rushing past, tourists giving me weird looks, and tried to remember. Tried to find the signs I must have missed. Claire had been around a lot lately. "Helping with wedding planning," she'd said. Marcus had been working late. "Big merger coming through," he'd explained. They'd both been at my apartment last week when I came home early from a dress fitting, sitting too close on the couch, Marcus's hand moving away from Claire's knee just a fraction too quickly. I'd noticed. Some part of me had noticed, but I'd ignored it because you don't think your fiancé is sleeping with your sister. You don't think the 2 people who are supposed to love you most in the world would do that. You just don't. My phone kept buzzing. Marcus. My mother. Claire. Marcus again. I turned it off. I started walking. No destination. No plan. Just walking because standing still felt impossible. Somewhere around the Art Deco district, it started to rain for real. Not the half-hearted spitting from before, actual rain. Cold and heavy and relentless. Within minutes, I was soaked through. My hair hung in wet ropes down my back. The dress, already torn and dirty from the stairs, was completely ruined. I didn't care. The rain felt appropriate. Cleansing, maybe, though that was probably too poetic for what was actually just cold water making me miserable. I walked for over an hour. My feet were bleeding, and the stupid satin heels I'd spent 3 fittings getting dyed to match the dress. I couldn't feel my fingers. People stared. A few asked if I was okay. I kept walking. Eventually, I found myself in front of St. Catherine's Cathedral. Not the church where I was supposed to get married. That was across town, probably full of confused guests by now. This was a smaller church, older, with stone steps leading up to heavy wooden doors. The steps were covered by an overhang, dry, protected from the rain. I climbed them and sat down. That's when everything caught up with me. The running, the cold, the sheer impossibility of what had happened. I pulled my knees up to my chest, difficult in the massive dress, and started to shake. Not crying yet, just shaking. My phone was dead in my hand. My wallet was back at the hotel in my regular purse, the one I wasn't supposed to need until after the ceremony. I had no money, no ID, nowhere to go. I couldn't go home. Marcus and I lived together. Had lived together for 2 years in a waterfront condo his family owned. All my stuff was there. My whole life. I couldn't call my mother. She'd spent 6 months planning this wedding, $60,000 on flowers alone. She'd be furious. Or worse, she'd try to fix it. Try to convince me to go through with it anyway because of the money already spent, the reputation at stake, the business implications. Business implications. That's what my family called love. My father owned Carter Development, one of the largest real estate firms in South Florida. Marcus's father ran Whitmore Investments. Our marriage was supposed to seal a partnership worth hundreds of millions. A dynasty, my father called it. I wondered if he'd known, if my mother had known, if everyone had known except stupid, naive Lena, who actually thought her fiancé loved her. I started crying then, ugly, gasping sobs that made my chest hurt. Mascara and tears mixed together, dripping onto the ruined white silk. I didn't try to stop. There was no one around to see. Just me and the rain and the crushing weight of everything I'd lost in the span of 5 seconds. That's when I heard footsteps. Heavy, deliberate, coming up the cathedral steps. I looked up, expecting a priest or a security guard coming to tell me to leave. Instead, I saw a man I recognized but had never actually spoken to. Adrian Voss. Even through my tears, even in the dim light from the street, I knew who he was. Everyone in Miami knew who Adrian Voss was, even if they pretended not to. He stood about 6 feet tall, lean but solid in a way that suggested he could handle himself. Dark hair cut short, jaw shadowed with stubble, sharp cheekbones and sharper eyes, the kind of gray that looked almost silver in certain light. He wore a black suit, no tie, the jacket unbuttoned. Raindrops glistened on his shoulders. He looked dangerous. That was the word that always came up when people talked about Adrian Voss. Dangerous connections, dangerous business dealings, dangerous temper. Marcus hated him, had spent countless dinners ranting about Adrian Voss and his family and how they operated outside the law, outside decency, outside everything proper people should care about. And here he was, standing 5 feet away from me, studying me with an expression I couldn't read. Lena Carter, he said. Not a question, a statement. I wiped at my face uselessly. Do I know you? No, but I know you. He tilted his head slightly. Question is, what's Marcus Whitmore's bride doing sitting on church steps in the rain 2 hours after she was supposed to get married? My throat closed up. I couldn't answer. Adrian's eyes narrowed, then he looked past me, scanning the street, the shadows. When he looked back at me, something in his expression had shifted. Where is he? Where's Whitmore? His voice stayed level, but there was an edge to it now. Did he hurt you? No, I stopped, took a breath. Not the way you mean. Adrian stared at me for a long moment. Then, slowly, he walked up the remaining steps and sat down next to me. Not close enough to touch. Just close enough that I could feel the warmth radiating off him, a sharp contrast to the cold still seeping through my wet dress. Tell me, he said quietly, why? The word came out sharper than I intended. Why do you care? Because you're sitting alone in the rain in a wedding dress, crying so hard you can barely breathe. And because I know Marcus Whitmore well enough to guess this is his fault. He paused. Also because if he did something to you, I'd like to know about it. There was something in his voice that made me believe him. Something that also made me think his interest in Marcus's mistakes might be more personal than humanitarian. He was sleeping with my sister, I heard myself say. The words felt distant, like someone else was speaking them. I caught them, today, 2 hours before the wedding. Adrian didn't react the way most people would. No shock, no sympathetic gasp. He just nodded slowly, like this confirmed something he'd already suspected. Claire? He asked. I blinked. How do you know my sister's name? I make it my business to know things. He pulled out his phone, typed something quickly, then put it away. You have anywhere to go? I started to lie. Started to say yes, of course, I have plenty of places. But the truth came out instead. No. Money? I shook my head. Phone working? Dead. Adrian stood up, held out his hand. Come with me. I stared at his hand like it was a foreign object. I don't even know you. No, but you know Marcus Whitmore, and look where that got you. His expression didn't change, but there was something almost gentle in his voice. I'm not offering forever, Lena. Just a warm place to dry off and figure out your next move. You can leave whenever you want, but sitting here in the cold isn't going to solve anything. He was right about that. My whole body was shaking now, teeth chattering so hard I could barely think. But this was Adrian Voss, the man Marcus had called a criminal, a thug, someone to stay far away from. Then again, Marcus was currently explaining to 300 wedding guests why his bride had disappeared. Or maybe he was still with Claire. Maybe they were both laughing about stupid Lena, who never saw it coming. I took Adrian's hand. His grip was warm and steady as he pulled me to my feet. The dress was so waterlogged I could barely move. Adrian noticed, shrugged off his jacket without a word, and draped it over my shoulders. It was still warm from his body. My car's around the corner, he said. I followed him down the steps on numb feet. Around the corner, a black Mercedes waited, idling at the curb. The driver, a thick-necked man who looked like he'd be more comfortable breaking things than driving, got out and opened the back door without being asked. Adrian gestured for me to get in. I hesitated one more second, then climbed inside. The interior was warm, leather seats, classical music playing softly. Adrian slid in next to me, careful to leave space between us. Take us home, Marcus, he told the driver. I almost laughed at the name. Of course his driver was named Marcus. The car pulled away from the curb smoothly. I watched the cathedral disappear behind us, taking with it the last few hours of my life. Everything before seemed impossible now, like it had happened to someone else. Where are we going? I asked. My house. It's about 20 minutes from here. Adrian was looking at his phone again, typing rapidly. I'm having my housekeeper prepare a room. She'll get you some dry clothes, something to eat if you want it. You don't have to. I know I don't have to. He looked up from his phone. But Marcus Whitmore's betrayal serves my interests, so consider this an investment. The honesty was startling. An investment in what? In making sure you don't go back to him. I would never. I stopped, because I didn't actually know what I would do. 6 hours ago, I'd been about to marry Marcus, spend my life with him. Now everything was shattered, and I had no idea how to even begin putting pieces back together. Adrian was still watching me. Your father's going to pressure you to reconcile. The business deal depends on this marriage. He's probably calling you right now. My phone's dead. When you turn it on, then. He leaned back against the seat. He's going to tell you every marriage has rough patches, that you're overreacting, that Claire made a mistake, but she's your sister and family forgives family, that Marcus is sorry and willing to make it work. Each word landed like a punch because I could hear my father's voice saying exactly those things. How do you know, Sez? Because I know how men like your father think. I know what this deal means to him, and I know he'll sacrifice you to save it without a second thought. The certainty in his voice chilled me more than the rain had. You don't know my father, I said weakly. Michael Carter. Started his company with money from your mother's family trust. Built it into an empire through a combination of smart investments and strategic marriages. His own, his business partners, everyone around him. You're not his daughter in his eyes, Lena. You're a chess piece. I wanted to argue, wanted to defend my father, but I'd spent my whole life watching him operate, watching him position people like pieces on a board, and I couldn't find the words to prove Adrian wrong. The car turned onto a long, tree-lined drive. Through the rain-streaked windows, I could see a house, no, a mansion, rising up ahead. Modern architecture, all clean lines and glass, lit from within like a beacon. We pulled up to the front entrance. Adrian's driver, Marcus, came around and opened my door. Adrian got out first, then offered his hand again to help me out. I took it, then immediately stumbled. My feet had gone completely numb in the wet shoes. Adrian caught me before I could fall. For a second, his arm was around my waist, steadying me, close enough that I could smell him, something expensive and subtle, cologne mixed with rain. "Easy," he said quietly. Then he swept me up like I weighed nothing. "I can walk," I protested. "Not in those shoes, you can't." He carried me up the steps to the front door, which opened before we reached it. A woman in her 50s stood in the doorway, perfectly composed, gray hair pulled back, wearing slacks and a crisp white blouse. "Miss Carter, I presume," she said with a slight accent I couldn't place. "European, maybe." "I'm Elena. I manage Mr. Voss's household." Her eyes took in my bedraggled state without a flicker of judgment. "I've prepared the East guest suite. There are dry clothes laid out and a hot bath drawn." "Thank you," I managed. Adrian set me down gently just inside the door on marble floors that probably cost more than my car. The entry hall soared 2 stories high, all glass and steel and modern art that I was too exhausted to process. "Elena will take care of you," Adrian said. "Get warm. Get some rest. We can talk later." He turned to walk away. "Why are you doing this?" The question burst out before I could stop it. Adrian paused, looked back at me. "Because Marcus Whitmore destroyed something of mine once, and I believe in returning favors." Then he was gone, disappearing through a doorway to the left. Elena touched my elbow gently. "This way, Miss Carter." I followed her through the house, leaving a trail of water on expensive floors, up a floating staircase, down a hallway lined with photographs I was too tired to look at closely, to a door at the end. She opened it to reveal a suite that was bigger than my entire apartment had been before I'd moved in with Marcus. Bedroom, sitting area, bathroom visible through another door. Everything decorated in soft grays and whites, modern but somehow warm. "The clothes are in the closet," Elena said. "They should fit reasonably well. I'll have your dress clean, though I'm afraid the damage may be permanent." "It's fine. I don't want it back." She nodded like this made perfect sense. "There's a phone on the nightstand if you need anything. Just press 0. "Thank you, Elena." She studied me for a moment with kind eyes. "You're safe here, Miss Carter. Whatever happened today, you're safe now." Then she left, closing the door softly behind her. I stood in the center of the room, dripping on the plush carpet, and tried to process everything that had happened in the last 3 hours. Failed marriage, sister's betrayal, my entire life collapsing. Running through Miami in a wedding dress. Adrian Voss. Adrian Voss, who was supposed to be dangerous, who had enemies and secrets and a reputation that made respectable people nervous, who had just offered me sanctuary without asking for anything in return. Except he had asked for something. He wanted me not to go back to Marcus. Because that served his interests. I should probably be more worried about what those interests were. Later. I could worry about it later. Right now I was so cold I couldn't think straight. I stumbled into the bathroom and stopped dead. The bathtub was massive, freestanding in the center of the room, already filled with steaming water. Candles were lit around the edges. Actual candles, not the electric kind. Fluffy towels were stacked on a warming rack. A robe hung on a hook by the door. I wanted to cry again at the simple kindness of it. Instead, I peeled off the ruined wedding dress. It took forever. All the tiny buttons down the back that I couldn't quite reach, the layers of fabric that clung to my wet skin. Finally, it pooled around my feet in a sodden mess of silk and lace and broken dreams. I left it there and climbed into the bath. The water was almost too hot, but I sank into it anyway, letting the heat seep into my frozen bones. My feet stung as circulation returned. My fingers tingled painfully. I stayed in the bath until the water started to cool. Then I got out, dried off with towels so soft they felt like clouds, and pulled on the clothes Elena had left. Yoga pants and a cashmere sweater, both fitting perfectly. How had she known my size? I made it to the bed, a massive thing with what felt like 1,000 pillows, and collapsed onto it. Sleep should have been impossible. My mind should have been racing, replaying everything, trying to make sense of the senseless. But exhaustion won. I was asleep before I could even pull the covers up. I woke to darkness and the sound of my own screaming. The nightmare had been vivid. Marcus and Claire tangled together. But in the dream, they'd been laughing at me. Everyone had been laughing. My father, my mother, all 300 wedding guests, all laughing while I stood there in my dress, unable to move, unable to breathe. A knock sounded at the door. "Lena?" Adrian's voice. I tried to answer, but my throat was closed tight. The door opened. Light from the hallway spilled in. Adrian stood silhouetted in the doorway, wearing different clothes now, jeans and a dark t-shirt, barefoot, like he'd been asleep too. "You okay?" he asked. I shook my head. Then the tears came again, hot and angry and unstoppable. Adrian crossed the room without hesitation, sat on the edge of the bed. For a second he seemed uncertain, like he wasn't sure what to do with a crying woman in his guest room. Then he did something unexpected. He pulled me into his arms. I should have pushed him away, should have remembered that I didn't know him, that he was dangerous, that this was all wrong. Instead, I grabbed onto his shirt and sobbed into his chest like he was the only solid thing in a world gone liquid and formless. He didn't say anything, didn't make empty promises or tell me everything would be okay. He just held me while I fell apart, one hand moving slowly up and down my back in a gesture that was more grounding than comforting. Eventually, the tears slowed, stopped. I became aware that I was clutching Adrian Voss's t-shirt in both fists, that I could feel his heartbeat steady against my cheek, that his arms around me felt safer than anything had in a very long time. I pulled back. "I'm sorry." "Don't be." His voice was quiet. "You're entitled to break down after the day you've had." "I don't usually—" I stopped, because I didn't actually know what I usually did in crisis situations. I'd never had a crisis like this before. "What time is it?" I asked. Adrian glanced at his watch. Little after 3. 3 a.m. My wedding should have been over by now. Marcus and I should have been at the reception, cutting the cake, doing our first dance, or maybe in our honeymoon suite at the hotel. "I need to charge my phone," I said suddenly. "I need to know—" "Do you really want to know?" Adrian asked. "Do you really want to read the messages from your family right now?" No, I didn't. But I also couldn't exist in this vacuum forever. "There's a charger in the nightstand," Adrian said. "But take my advice. Wait until morning. Get some real sleep first. Face it all with a clear head." It was good advice. Probably the only good advice I'd gotten all day. "Okay," I said. Adrian stood up. "Try to get some rest. I'm just down the hall if you need anything." He was almost to the door when I asked, "Why do you hate Marcus so much?" He stopped, turned back. In the dim light from the hallway, his expression was unreadable. "That's a long story," he said finally. "One better saved for tomorrow." "Tell me anyway." Adrian studied me for a long moment. Then he came back, sat in the chair by the window instead of the bed, leaned forward, elbows on his knees, hands clasped. 5 years ago, he said, my brother Alex was engaged to a woman named Sarah Brennan. They were happy, really, genuinely happy in a way that's rare. Wedding was planned, venue booked, whole future mapped out. He paused. I waited. 3 months before the wedding, Sarah called it off. Disappeared. Alex was devastated, wouldn't talk about it, wouldn't explain what happened. 6 months later, he killed himself. My breath caught. Adrian, it took me a year to find out the truth. Marcus Whitmore had targeted Sarah deliberately, seduced her, made her fall in love with him, then broke her heart so thoroughly she couldn't face marrying anyone, least of all my brother. And he did it because my father had beaten his father in a business deal. Marcus Whitmore destroyed my brother's life, ended it, actually, as revenge for a fucking real estate contract. The words hung in the air between us, heavy and horrible. I've been looking for a way to hurt him ever since, Adrian said quietly. To make him understand what it feels like to lose something that matters. So when I saw you sitting on those church steps, I saw an opportunity. And yes, I'm using you. I won't pretend otherwise." His honesty was brutal. And somehow, I appreciated it more than any gentle lie would have been. "At least you're upfront about it," I said. "I won't lie to you, Lena, about my motivations or anything else." He met my eyes. "But I also meant what I said earlier. You're safe here. Whatever I feel about Marcus, you're not a pawn. You're a person who got hurt by the same man who destroyed my family. That means something." I believed him. Maybe I was an idiot, but I believed him. "Get some sleep," he said again, standing up. "Morning's gonna come too fast." This time, I let him leave. I lay back down, pulled the covers up, and stared at the ceiling. Sleep felt impossible now, my mind too full of new information. Adrian's brother, Sarah Brennan, Marcus's calculated cruelty. Had Marcus done the same thing to me? Targeted me because of who my father was? What a marriage could gain him? I thought he loved me. We'd been together for 3 years. He'd proposed at sunset on South Beach, had said all the right words, had seemed so sincere. Had any of it been real? I thought about Claire, my sister, 2 years younger, who'd always competed with me over everything. Clothes, grades, boyfriends, our father's attention. I'd thought we'd grown past that. Thought we were finally close. How long had she been sleeping with my fiancé? The question spun through my head until gray light started filtering through the windows. Dawn. I'd been awake all night. I finally got up, found my phone in the ruined dress. Miraculously, it was intact. Plugged it in using the charger from the nightstand. It took a few minutes to turn on. When it did, notifications exploded across the screen. 47 missed calls, 93 text messages, 15 voicemails. I started reading. From Marcus, 6:34 p.m. "We need to talk. This is fixable." From Claire, 6:41 p.m. "I'm sorry you saw that, but you need to understand." From Mom, 6:55 p.m. "Where are you? Everyone is asking questions. This is humiliating." From Dad, 7:12 p.m. "Lena, call me immediately. We need to handle this properly." From Marcus, 7:30 p.m. "I know you're upset, but running away isn't solving anything. The guests have gone home. We need to figure out next steps." From Dad, 8:15 p.m. "I don't know what Marcus did, but you need to come home and we'll work it out. The deal with Whitmore Investments is too important to throw away over a misunderstanding." A misunderstanding. My father was calling me catching my fiancé with my sister a misunderstanding. The messages continued in the same vein. Marcus alternating between apologetic and frustrated. Claire trying to explain that it just happened and wasn't serious. My mother worried about reputation. My father focused on the business implications. No one, not a single person, asked if I was okay. I kept scrolling until I reached the most recent message, sent at 2:47 a.m. From Dad, "I know where you are, Lena. Adrian Voss is dangerous. Whatever he's told you, whatever promises he's made, he's using you to get to Marcus. Come home before this gets worse." I stared at that message for a long time. My father knew I was here, which meant Marcus knew, which meant... A soft knock interrupted my thoughts. "Come in," I called. Elena entered carrying a tray, coffee, fruit, pastries. The smell alone made my stomach growl. I hadn't eaten since yesterday morning. "I thought you might be hungry," she said, setting the tray on the small table by the window. "Thank you." I hesitated. "Elena, does my father know I'm here?" Her expression didn't change, but something flickered in her eyes. "I'll let Mr. Voss know you're awake." She left before I could ask anything else. I poured coffee, perfect temperature, exactly the right amount of cream, and ate a croissant that tasted like butter and heaven. Then Adrian appeared in the doorway, dressed now in dark slacks and a white shirt, sleeves rolled up. "Morning," he said. "You look better." I look like I spent the night crying. "Better than when you showed up here looking like you drowned." He came in, leaned against the wall. "Your father's been calling. He knows you're here." I saw his messages. "He's going to come for you, probably today, maybe this morning. Are you ready for that conversation?" Was I? I had no idea. "He's going to tell me I'm making a mistake," I said slowly. That I need to forgive Marcus and go through with the marriage. That family and business come first. Probably. And my mother will cry. Claire will apologize but make it seem like it's somehow my fault for not paying enough attention to Marcus. And Marcus will... I stopped. I don't know what Marcus will do. He'll do whatever serves him best, Adrian said flatly. That's what he always does. I set down my coffee cup. Tell me about Sarah Brennan. Tell me everything. So he did. Sarah had been a journalist, Adrian explained. Smart, ambitious, working on an investigative piece about corruption in Miami real estate. She'd met Alex at a charity gala, a real meeting, genuine attraction. They'd fallen in love the old-fashioned way. Then Marcus Whitmore showed up, started pursuing Sarah with focused intensity. Flowers, expensive dinners, grand gestures. At first she'd ignored him, but Marcus was persistent, and he'd known exactly which buttons to push, which insecurities to exploit. She broke it off with Alex 3 months before the wedding, Adrian said, his voice flat in the way that meant he was keeping emotion carefully controlled. Said she'd made a mistake, that she wasn't ready for marriage. Alex was destroyed. He kept trying to win her back, but she wouldn't talk to him. Then she disappeared, moved to New York, changed her number, cut off all contact. And your brother couldn't handle it. Started drinking, lost his job. 6 months after Sarah left, he drove his car off the MacArthur Causeway at 3 a.m. The police called it an accident, but I found the note he'd left in his apartment. Not for me, for Sarah, apologizing for not being enough. The pain in Adrian's voice was visceral. I wanted to reach for him, offer comfort the way he'd offered it to me last night. But I stayed still. I tried to find Sarah, to tell her what happened, he continued. When I finally tracked her down in New York, she broke. Told me everything. How Marcus had convinced her Alex was using her to advance his family's business interests. How he'd shown her fabricated evidence, emails, documents, all fake but convincing enough. How he'd seduced her, made her believe he loved her, then discarded her once she'd called off the wedding. She'd moved away because she couldn't face what she'd done. Jesus, I whispered. It took me another 6 months to confirm it all, to find the people Marcus had paid to create the fake evidence, to piece together that he'd targeted Sarah deliberately because my father's company had outbid his father on a waterfront development deal. Marcus Whitmore destroyed my brother's life, ended his life, over business. Adrian's eyes met mine, gray and cold and absolutely certain. So yes, I hate him. And yes, I'm using your situation to hurt him. But I want you to understand something, Lena. What he did to you, sleeping with your sister, betraying you hours before your wedding, that's who Marcus Whitmore is. That's what he does. He uses people and discards them when they've served their purpose. I thought about the Marcus I'd known, or thought I'd known. Charming, attentive, successful. He'd seemed perfect. But perfect people don't exist, and men who seem too good to be true usually are. My father's going to come here, I said, and he's going to make me an offer. Go back to Marcus, forgive this one mistake, save the business deal. He'll probably throw money at it. A post-nup, maybe. Something to protect me. Will you go? The question hung between us. Would I? 24 hours ago, the answer would have been yes. Because that's what good daughters did. They sacrificed for family, for business, for all the logical reasons. But sitting in Adrian Voss's guest room, wearing borrowed clothes, with the memory of my fiancé fucking my sister still burning behind my eyes, no, I said, I won't go back. Something shifted in Adrian's expression. Satisfaction, maybe, or respect. Then we need to prepare, he said. Because your father's not going to take no for an answer. And when he shows up here with Marcus in tow, you need to be ready to stand your ground. How? A sound from downstairs interrupted us. The doorbell, followed by voices. Angry voices. Adrian pulled out his phone, swiped to what looked like a security feed. His jaw tightened. They're already here, he said. Your father, Marcus, and about 6 other men who look like lawyers. My stomach dropped. It's only 8 a.m. Michael Carter doesn't wait for convenient hours. Adrian pocketed his phone. Stay here. I'll handle this. No. I stood up. This is my fight. Lena? No, I repeated. I'm not hiding. Not from them. Not anymore. Adrian studied me for a long moment. Then he nodded. Okay, but you follow my lead. Don't let them corner you into conversations without me present. And don't sign anything, agree to anything, or make any promises. Understood? Understood. Get dressed. Something that makes you feel strong. I went to the closet. Elena had stocked it with clothes in my size. More evidence that Adrian Voss had resources I couldn't begin to understand. I chose black pants, a silk blouse, low heels. Simple. Professional. Nothing that screamed emotional breakdown. When I came out, Adrian was waiting. He looked me over and nodded approval. Ready? He asked. I wasn't, but I said, yes. We went downstairs together. My father was standing in the entry hall, looking like he owned the place. Michael Carter in his element. Expensive suit, steel gray hair perfectly styled, expression projecting authority and barely controlled fury. Marcus stood next to him, looking tired. Guilty, maybe, though that might have been wishful thinking. 3 men in suits hovered nearby, lawyers, like Adrian had said, and 2 larger men who were definitely security. My mother wasn't there. Neither was Claire. Interesting. Lena, my father's voice cracked like a whip. We're leaving, now. No. My voice was steady. I was proud of that. This isn't a discussion. You're right, it's not. I descended the last few stairs, Adrian a solid presence at my side. Because I'm not going anywhere with you. My father's face darkened. You're upset. You have every right to be, but running to Adrian Voss, he spat the name like it tasted bad, is not the solution. I didn't run to him. He offered help when I had nowhere else to go. You had home. You have family. Family? The word came out harsh. Claire is my family. She was sleeping with my fiancé. Marcus flinched. Good. A mistake, my father said smoothly. A terrible mistake that Claire regrets deeply. Marcus has assured me it meant nothing. They both want to apologize properly. I don't care what they want. Lena, be reasonable. I am being reasonable. My voice rose. What's unreasonable is expecting me to marry a man who betrayed me hours before our wedding. What's unreasonable is you standing here acting like this is fixable with an apology and a business handshake. The Whitmore deal? I don't give a fuck about the Whitmore deal. Silence. I'd never sworn at my father before. Never raised my voice like this. He recovered quickly. You're emotional. Adrian Voss is manipulating you. I'm not manipulating anyone, Adrian said quietly. His first words since we'd come downstairs. Lena is here because she chose to be. She can leave any time she wants. Can you say the same? My father ignored him, kept his eyes on me. Lena, I'm going to say this once. You come home with me now. We work this out properly, or there will be consequences. What consequences? I asked. You'll disown me? Cut me off? Do it. I don't care anymore. Your trust fund comes from Mom's family, not you. You can't touch it. That stopped him. He'd forgotten that detail, or hoped I had. You think Adrian Voss cares about you? My father changed tactics. He's using you to hurt Marcus. Once he's done, you'll be worthless to him too. He's been honest about his motivations, I said, which is more than I can say for anyone else in my life. Marcus finally spoke. Lena, please. Can we talk? Just the 2 of us? No. 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking. I said no, Marcus. You owe me that much. I owe you nothing. I looked at him directly for the first time since he'd arrived. Saw the face I'd loved, or thought I'd loved. It looked like a stranger's face now. You fucked my sister in our wedding suite, hours before our ceremony. I don't owe you a single second of my time. It was a mistake. I was stressed, the wedding, everything with the business. So you coped by sleeping with my sister? I laughed, sharp and bitter. Interesting stress management technique. Lena, how long? The question burst out. How long have you been sleeping with her? Marcus's silence was answer enough. Months? I pressed. A year? Our entire relationship? It doesn't matter. It matters to me. 6 months, he said finally. It's been about 6 months. 6 months. While we'd been planning our wedding, while I'd been choosing flowers and tasting cake and writing vows promising forever. Something broke inside me. Not my heart, that was already shattered. Something deeper. The part of me that had still wanted to believe this was somehow a misunderstanding. "Get out," I said quietly. "Lena, get out." "You're making a mistake," my father said. "A mistake you'll regret for the rest of your life." "Maybe. But it'll be my mistake. My choice. For once in my life, I get to choose." I turned and walked away. Up the stairs. Back to the guest room. I heard voices behind me. Adrian saying something, my father responding, sounds of movement. Then the front door closed. Car engine started. Tires on gravel. They were gone. I made it to the bathroom before I started shaking, sat on the edge of the bathtub and tried to breathe through the adrenaline crash. A knock on the door. "Lena, can I come in?" Adrian. "Yes." He entered, assessed me with one look, then sat down next to me. Not touching, just there. "You did good," he said. I told my father to fuck off. Like I said, good. I laughed despite everything. Then the laugh turned into something else, something close to tears, but not quite. Adrian waited it out. "What happens now?" I asked finally. "Now you figure out what you want, who you want to be, what kind of life you want to build." "I don't know how to do that. I've spent my whole life being who other people wanted me to be." "Then it's time to figure it out." He stood up, offered his hand. "Come on. I want to show you something." I took his hand and let him lead me out of the bathroom, through the house, to a set of French doors I hadn't noticed before. He opened them onto a terrace that overlooked the ocean. The view was stunning, endless water, Miami skyline in the distance, morning sun turning everything gold. "This is my favorite spot," Adrian said. "When things get complicated, when I need to think, I come out here. The ocean doesn't care about business deals or family drama or revenge. It just is. I find that clarifying." We stood in silence, watching the waves. "I meant what I said last night," Adrian said finally. "About using you. About my motivations. But I also meant the other part. About you being safe here. You can stay as long as you need to. No expectations. No pressure." "Why?" I asked. "You barely know me." "Because Marcus Whitmore destroyed someone I loved, and now he's tried to destroy you. That makes us allies, whether we planned it or not." "Allies with benefits?" I tried to joke. Adrian smiled slightly. "Not unless you want them." The implication hung there. I probably should have been offended, or scared, or something other than intrigued. "I should probably focus on not having a complete breakdown first," I said. Probably wise. We stayed on the terrace for a while longer. Then Elena appeared with more coffee and the news that my mother had called, not for me but for Adrian, asking him to be reasonable about this situation. "What did you tell her?" I asked. "That her daughter was an adult capable of making her own decisions. How'd that go over?" "About as well as you'd expect." The day passed in a strange limbo. I stayed at Adrian's house, wearing borrowed clothes, eating food Elena prepared, trying to process everything that had happened. My phone kept ringing. I kept ignoring it. Adrian gave me space but checked in regularly, made sure I ate, made sure I was okay, never pushed for more information than I wanted to give. It was nice, weird and unexpected and definitely complicated, but nice. That evening we had dinner on the terrace. Grilled fish, roasted vegetables, wine that probably cost more than my car payment. "Can I ask you something?" I said halfway through the meal. "Always." "What's your endgame here, with Marcus, with me, with all of this?" Adrian set down his wine glass. "Honestly? I don't know yet. A week ago, my endgame was finding a way to hurt Marcus Whitmore the way he hurt my family. Then you showed up, and the situation got more complicated." "How?" "Because you're not just a weapon against Marcus anymore. You're a person I'm starting to care about, and those two things don't necessarily align." The honesty was startling and kind of terrifying. "You barely know me," I said again. "I know you told your father to fuck off this morning. I know you walked away from a wedding that would have secured your financial future. I know you're sitting here having dinner with me instead of going back to a life that was probably comfortable, even if it was killing you slowly. He met my eyes. That tells me enough. You make me sound braver than I am. You're brave enough. The rest you'll figure out. I wanted to believe him. Wanted to believe I could be the person he seemed to think I was. My phone buzzed. Another call. I glanced at the screen. Claire. I should let it go to voicemail like all the others, but something made me answer. What? I said. Lena. Claire's voice was thick, like she'd been crying. Please talk to me. I need to explain. Explain what? That you've been fucking my fiancé for 6 months? I think that's pretty self-explanatory. It wasn't like that. Then what was it like, Claire? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you betrayed me in the worst possible way. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But you have to understand, Marcus and we connected. It wasn't about hurting you. But you did hurt me. That's what matters. You always had everything, Claire said, and now I could hear anger beneath the tears. Perfect grades, perfect job, perfect fiancé, Dad's approval. For once I wanted something that was supposed to be yours. The confession was so ugly, so honest, that I couldn't speak for a moment. So this was about me? I finally managed. About competing with me? It was about me being invisible my whole life while you shined. So you fucked my fiancé. That's your solution to feeling invisible? I love him, Claire said. I know you don't believe me, but I do. And he loves me too. Then congratulations. You can have him. Lena. I'm done, Claire. With you, with Marcus, with all of it. Don't call me again. I hung up. Adrian was watching me. You okay? My sister says she's in love with my ex-fiancé. Apparently this whole thing was about her feeling invisible compared to me. Sounds like she's trying to make herself the victim. Yeah. I picked up my wine, drained it. The fucked up part is, I almost feel sorry for her. She has no idea who Marcus really is, what he's capable of. You could warn her. I thought about it, about calling Claire back and telling her about Sarah Brennan, about Marcus's capacity for calculated cruelty. Then I decided I didn't care enough. Let her find out on her own, I said. Maybe it'll hurt less than finding out the way I did. Adrian smiled slightly. That's cold. I'm learning from the best. We finished dinner, moved to the living room. Adrian put on music, jazz, something moody and sophisticated. We didn't talk much, didn't need to. Around 11, I stood up to go to bed. Lena, Adrian said as I reached the door. I turned back. What you did today, standing up to your father, to Marcus, that took real courage. Don't let anyone tell you different. Thank you for giving me a place to do it from. Anytime. I went upstairs, got ready for bed, climbed under the covers. This time, I fell asleep quickly. No nightmares, no tears, just sleep. And for the first time since I'd walked into that hotel room and saw my world ending, I felt like maybe, just maybe, I was going to survive this. The next morning, I woke up to sunlight streaming through the windows and the smell of coffee drifting up from downstairs. For about 3 seconds, everything felt normal. Then I remembered where I was and why, and the weight of it all came crashing back. I grabbed my phone. More messages, but fewer than yesterday. People were starting to give up, or at least give me space. Except for one number I didn't recognize. I know what Marcus did to you. I know what he's capable of. If you want answers, meet me. I stared at that message for a long time. Could it be Sarah Brennan? I found Adrian in his study, a room I hadn't seen before. Dark wood, floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, massive desk with 3 computer monitors. He was on the phone, speaking in rapid Italian. When he saw me in the doorway, he wrapped up the conversation and hung up. Morning, he said. Sleep okay? Better than I expected. I held out my phone. I got a weird message. He took it, read the text, and his expression hardened. That's Sarah's number. How do you I told you. I make it my business to know things. He handed the phone back. Question is, do you want to meet her? Do you think I should? I think Sarah has information about Marcus that you might find useful, but I also think dredging up the past is painful, and she's been through enough. He leaned back in his chair. Your call. I thought about it. About what Sarah might know. About whether I wanted to hear it. Set it up, I said. Adrian made a call. Spoke quietly for a few minutes. Hung up. 2 hours. There's a cafe in Coconut Grove she likes. Quiet. Out of the way. I'll drive you. You don't have to. Lena. His voice was gentle but firm. Marcus knows you're here. Your family knows you're here. Until we figure out what happens next, you don't go anywhere alone. Understood? The protectiveness should have felt patronizing. Instead, it felt like safety. Understood. I went upstairs, showered, changed into another outfit from the magically stocked closet. Dark jeans, white t-shirt, leather jacket. Simple. Not trying to impress anyone. When I came back down, Adrian was waiting by the front door. He'd changed too. Jeans, dark sweater, aviator sunglasses hanging from his collar. He looked less like a dangerous businessman and more like someone who could blend in anywhere. The drive to Coconut Grove took 20 minutes. Adrian drove himself this time, in a Tesla that was probably worth more than most people's houses. We didn't talk much. I spent most of the ride staring out the window, watching Miami slide by, trying not to think about what I was about to hear. The cafe was tucked away on a side street, small and quiet, with outdoor seating under a canopy of banyan trees. Sarah was already there, sitting at a corner table, nursing what looked like an iced coffee. I recognized her from the photos I'd found online after Adrian told me her story. Mid-30s, dark hair pulled back in a ponytail, dressed in yoga pants and a tank top. She looked tired, older than her pictures. She stood up when she saw us. Her eyes went to Adrian first, and something complicated passed over her face. Grief, maybe, or guilt. Adrian? She said quietly. Sarah. He didn't move to hug her or shake her hand, just nodded. Thanks for doing this. I should have done it sooner. She turned to me. You must be Lena. Yeah. I'm sorry about what happened to you. With Marcus. The sincerity in her voice caught me off guard. You tried to warn me, didn't you? The text. I've been trying to warn every woman he gets close to for the last 3 years. Most of them don't listen. She gestured to the empty chairs. Sit, please. We sat. Adrian caught the waiter's attention, ordered coffee for both of us. Nobody spoke until the drinks arrived. Sarah broke the silence first. How much did Adrian tell you? Enough. About you and his brother. About what Marcus did. She nodded slowly. Then you know what he's capable of. The question is, do you know why he targeted you? My father's company, the business deal. That's part of it. But there's more. Sarah pulled out her phone, scrolled through something, then slid it across the table to me. I've been investigating Marcus for years. Quietly. Very quietly. This is what I found. I looked at the screen. It showed a document. Looked like financial records. Names, dates, amounts. I didn't understand half of it. What am I looking at? Proof that Marcus Whitmore has been systematically targeting women from wealthy or influential families for the past 6 years. Seducing them, getting close to their families, extracting business advantages or inside information, then discarding them. Sarah leaned forward. You're not the first, Lena. You're just the most high profile. My stomach turned. How many? That I can prove? 7, including you and me. But I suspect there are more. 7 women. 7 lives disrupted or destroyed for business advantages. Why hasn't anyone stopped him? I asked. Because he's careful. Because the women he targets are usually too embarrassed or too pressured by their families to speak up. And because the Whitmore family has enough money and influence to make problems disappear. Sarah took her phone back. I've been trying to build a case for years, but without witnesses willing to go on record, without hard evidence beyond circumstantial connections, there's nothing to prosecute. I looked at Adrian. He was listening carefully, his expression unreadable. You knew about this, I said to him. The other women. I suspected. Sarah confirmed it about a year ago, and you didn't think to mention it? Would you have believed me if I had? He asked quietly. Or would you have thought I was just trying to poison you against Marcus? He was right. I wouldn't have believed him. Sarah pulled out a folder from her bag. Actual paper. Old school. These are the stories of the other women I've identified. I'm not giving you names. They didn't consent to that. But I thought you should know you're not alone, that what happened to you is part of a pattern. I opened the folder, started reading. Woman 1, daughter of a state senator, dated Marcus for 8 months. He gained access to confidential information about upcoming legislation that benefited Whitmore Investments. Relationship ended abruptly after the information was used. She attempted suicide 6 months later. Woman 2, heiress to a hotel chain. Marcus courted her for a year, got engaged, called it off 2 weeks before the wedding after securing a favorable deal between her family's hotels and Whitmore properties. She disappeared from public life and hasn't been seen since. Woman 3, journalist working on an expose about real estate fraud in Miami. Marcus seduced her, gained access to her sources and research, then fed that information to the people she was investigating. Her career was destroyed when her sources dried up. She left journalism entirely. The stories went on, each one worse than the last, each one showing the same pattern. Marcus identifying a target, getting close, extracting what he needed, then vanishing. "This is sociopathic," I said. "Yes," Sarah agreed. "That's exactly what it is." I thought about Marcus, about the man I'd thought I'd known. Charming, attentive, seemingly perfect. Had any of it been real? Or had I just been target number 7? "Why me?" I asked. "There are other wealthy families in Miami. Why target me specifically?" Sarah and Adrian exchanged a look. "Tell her," Adrian said. Sarah sighed. "Because your father's company holds the permits for the Brickell Heights development. Marcus's father has been trying to get those permits transferred to Whitmore Investments for 3 years. Your father has refused every offer. But if you married into the Whitmore family, if the companies merged, the permits transfer automatically," I finished. "It's in the contract." Exactly. The realization hit me like a physical blow. My entire relationship with Marcus, 3 years of my life, had been about real estate permits, not love, not even attraction, just business. Did my father know? The question came out barely above a whisper. Sarah hesitated. "I don't have proof, but I think he suspected Marcus's interest was primarily professional, and I think he didn't care as long as it benefited the company. My father had sold me. Maybe not explicitly, maybe not consciously, but he'd sold me just the same." I stood up abruptly. The chair scraped against concrete. "I need a minute." I walked away from the table toward the street, trying to breathe through the rage building in my chest. My father had known, had suspected at minimum, and he'd let it happen anyway because it served his interests. Adrian appeared at my elbow. "You okay?" "No?" I turned to face him. "My father sold me to Marcus Whitmore for a fucking real estate permit, and now he wants me to go back, to forgive everything, to marry the man anyway, for business." "I know." "How are you so calm about this?" "Because I've had years to process what the Whitmore family is capable of. You've had 3 days. His hand found mine, squeezed gently. "You're allowed to be angry. You're allowed to rage. But don't let it consume you. That's what they want. For you to be so destroyed, you either come back broken or disappear entirely." "What's the alternative?" "You fight back." I looked at him, really looked at him. "How?" "We expose him. Sarah has been collecting evidence for years. You can be the witness she needs. Go on record. Tell your story. Make it impossible for the Whitmore family to sweep this under the rug." My father will destroy me." "Your father doesn't control you anymore, remember? You have your own money, your own life. The only power he has is the power you give him." I wanted to believe that. Wanted to believe I could stand up to my family, to Marcus, to everyone who'd used me. What if I'm not strong enough? "You told your father to fuck off yesterday. You're strong enough." We went back to the table. Sarah was waiting patiently, sipping her coffee. "I want to help," I told her. "Whatever you need. I'll go on record. I'll testify. Whatever it takes." Sarah's expression shifted. Relief, maybe, or hope. "Are you sure? Once you do this, there's no taking it back. Your family will come after you. Marcus will come after you. It won't be easy." "Nothing about the last 3 days has been easy. At least this way, I'm doing something." "Okay." Sarah pulled out a recorder. "Then let's start now. Tell me everything, from the beginning." So I did. I told her about meeting Marcus at a charity gala 3 years ago. How he'd pursued me with focused intensity. How he'd seemed perfect. Attentive, romantic, everything I'd thought I wanted. How he'd proposed on the beach at sunset with a ring that costs more than most people make in a year. I told her about the wedding planning, how Marcus had been increasingly absent, always working late, always stressed. How Claire had been around more and more, helping with details. How I'd noticed little things, glances, touches, moments that didn't quite add up, but had ignored them because you don't suspect your sister and your fiancé. I told her about walking into that hotel room, about what I'd seen, about running through Miami in my wedding dress with nowhere to go. By the time I finished, my coffee was cold and the sun had shifted, throwing new shadows across the table. Sarah turned off the recorder. Thank you. This helps more than you know. What happens now? Now I keep building the case. I've got 2 other women who might be willing to go on record after hearing your story. If I can get 3 witnesses, I can take this to the state attorney. Maybe get an actual investigation started. How long will that take? Months, maybe longer. These things don't move quickly. She met my eyes. But they do move. And eventually Marcus Whitmore will have to answer for what he's done. Eventually. Not immediately. Not in time to make the pain stop or erase what had happened, but eventually was better than never. We left the cafe shortly after. Adrian drove us back to his house in silence. I stared out the window, processing everything Sarah had told me. 7 women, 7 lives disrupted, and mine was just the latest. You're quiet, Adrian said as we pulled into his driveway. Thinking. About? About how I'm going to face my father at the next family event. About how I'm going to survive the whispers and the gossip when this all comes out. About whether I'm making the right choice. Are you having second thoughts? No, but I'm terrified. Good. Terror means you understand what you're up against. He turned off the car. But you're not doing this alone. Remember that. We went inside. Elena had lunch waiting. Grilled chicken salad, fresh bread, lemonade. We ate on the terrace, watching boats move across the water. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Stop talking to Sarah Brennan, stop making trouble, or there will be consequences. I showed Adrian. His jaw tightened. They're watching you. Who? Could be Marcus. Could be your father. Could be both. He pulled out his own phone. I'm calling my security team. We're upgrading the system. Adrian, I don't want to put you in danger. Too late. The second I picked you up off those church steps, I put myself in the middle of this. He looked at me. I don't regret it, but we need to be smart. No more leaving the house without security. No more meeting people without me or someone I trust present. That seems extreme. Marcus Whitmore destroyed my brother over a business deal. You think he won't destroy you to protect himself? He had a point. The rest of the day was tense. Adrian made phone calls, arranged for additional security. 2 men showed up within an hour. Both looked like they could bench press a car. They did a sweep of the property, checked all the entrances, installed additional cameras. I felt like I was in a movie. The wrong kind of movie. That evening, I was in my room when I heard raised voices downstairs. I came out to find Adrian arguing with someone at the front door. Not someone. My mother. She was dressed impeccably as always. Designer suit, perfect hair, pearls. But her eyes were red-rimmed. She'd been crying. Mom, I said from the top of the stairs. She looked up. Lena, thank God. We need to talk. I don't think that's a good idea, Adrian said. I'm not asking your permission. My mother's voice was sharp. I'm talking to my daughter. It's okay, I told Adrian. Then to my mother, come in. She followed me to the living room. Adrian hovered in the doorway, making it clear he wasn't going far. My mother sat on the edge of the couch, purse clutched in her lap. You look well. I'm surviving. Your father is furious. He's threatening to cut you off completely. He can try. My trust fund comes from your family, not his. Lena, please, this has gone far enough. Come home. We'll work this out as a family. Work what out exactly? The fact that Marcus cheated on me, or the fact that Dad knew he was using me and didn't care? My mother flinched. That's not fair. Isn't it? Tell me the truth, Mom. Did you know what Marcus was really after? She was silent for a long moment. Then, quietly, I suspected his interest was partially professional, but I thought he cared about you too. I thought it could be both. It couldn't. People marry for all kinds of reasons. Not me. I'm not marrying someone who sees me as a business transaction. Then what are you going to do? My mother's composure cracked slightly. Stay here with Adrian Voss? A man you barely know? A man with a dangerous reputation? He's been kinder to me in 3 days than my own family was in 3 years. He's using you, Lena, to hurt Marcus, to hurt your father. Can't you see that? He's honest about his motivations. That's more than I can say for anyone else. My mother stood up. I came here to bring you home, to make you see reason. Then you wasted a trip. She stared at me like I was a stranger. Maybe I was. Maybe the Lena who would have caved to family pressure died on those cathedral steps. Your father won't forgive this, she said quietly. I don't need his forgiveness. You need his money, his connections, his protection. Actually, I don't. I have my own money. I'll build my own connections. And Adrian's protecting me just fine. My mother's eyes filled with tears, real ones this time. I don't know who you are anymore. Maybe you never did. She left without another word. I heard the front door close, her car start, the sound of tires on gravel. Adrian came into the room. You okay? I just told my mother I don't need her or my father, so no, I'm not okay. But I'm better than I was. He smiled slightly. Progress. That night, I couldn't sleep, too much going through my head. My mother's tears, Sarah's evidence, the text message threatening consequences. Around midnight, I gave up and went downstairs. Found Adrian in his study, still working. Can't sleep? He asked, without looking up from his computer. Too much to process. He saved whatever he was working on and closed the laptop. Want to talk about it? Not really. Want to, I don't know, do something that doesn't involve thinking about my shitty family or my shittier ex-fiancé. I have an idea. He stood up. Come on. He led me through the house, down a hallway I hadn't explored yet, to a door that opened onto stairs going down. The basement was nothing like I expected. Instead of storage or a wine cellar, it was a full gym. Weights, treadmills, punching bags, the works. This is your idea? I asked. When everything feels out of control, I work out, burns off the anger, clears the head. He walked over to the punching bags. You ever done any boxing? No? Want to learn? I looked at the bag. Thought about everything I wanted to hit. Yeah, I really do. Adrian found gloves that fit me, wrapped my hands properly, showed me the basic stance, how to throw a jab, a cross, a hook, how to pivot from the hips, how to put my weight behind it. Then he held the bag steady. Hit it. I did. Barely moved the bag. Harder. Don't hold back. I hit it again and again, each punch getting stronger as I stopped thinking and just let the anger out. Marcus. Punch. Claire. Punch. My father. Punch. My mother's disappointed face. Punch. 3 years of lies. Punch. 7 other women before me. Punch. Everything I'd lost. Punch. I hit that bag until my arms ached and sweat dripped down my face and my lungs burned. Adrian never told me to stop, just held the bag steady and let me work through it. Finally, I stopped, breathing hard, hands shaking. Better? Adrian asked. Yeah, actually, yeah. He helped me take off the gloves. My hands were red beneath the wraps, but nothing hurt worse than my chest had been hurting for days. Thank you, I said. Anytime you need to hit something, you know where to find the bags. We went back upstairs. I showered, washing off the sweat and some of the anger. When I came out, I felt lighter. Not okay, but lighter. I was halfway to my room when I stopped, turned around, went to Adrian's door instead. I knocked. Come in. He was reading in bed, bare-chested, glasses perched on his nose. The glasses surprised me, made him look younger, less dangerous. Can I sleep here? I asked. I just don't want to be alone. Adrian didn't hesitate. He pulled back the covers on the other side of the bed. Come on. I climbed in, staying on my side. He went back to his book. After a few minutes, my breathing synchronized with his. The tension started to drain out of my shoulders. Adrian? Yeah? When this is over, when we've exposed Marcus and dealt with my family and everything, what happens to us? He was quiet for a moment. Then, I don't know, but I'd like to find out. Me too. I fell asleep like that in Adrian Voss's bed, feeling safer than I had in years. The next morning, I woke up alone. Adrian's side of the bed was cold, meaning he'd been up for a while. I found a note on his pillow. Had to handle some business. Security team is outside if you need anything. Back by lunch. I got dressed and went downstairs. Elena had breakfast waiting. Eggs, toast, fresh fruit. I was halfway through when the doorbell rang. Elena went to answer it. I heard voices. Then she came back looking uncertain. Miss Carter, there's a young woman here to see you. She says her name is Rebecca Chen. I didn't recognize the name. Did she say what she wants? She says she's one of Marcus's victims. Sarah Brennan gave her your information. One of the 7 women. I set down my coffee. Send her in. Rebecca Chen was younger than I expected. Maybe 25, petite, with long black hair and nervous eyes. She clutched her purse like a lifeline. Thank you for seeing me, she said. I know this is weird, showing up unannounced. It's fine. Sit. Can Elena get you anything? Coffee would be great. We settled in the living room. Elena brought coffee and disappeared tactfully. Sarah told me you're going on record, Rebecca said. About Marcus. About what he did to you. I am. I want to do the same, but I'm scared. Me too. That seemed to surprise her. You are? Terrified. My family is threatening to disown me. Marcus is sending threatening texts. I have no idea what happens next. I took a breath. But I'm doing it anyway because staying silent feels worse. Rebecca nodded slowly. Can I tell you my story? Please. I met Marcus 2 years ago. I was working for my father's tech company in Silicon Valley. Marcus came to pitch a partnership between our company and Whitmore Investments. He asked me to dinner to discuss details. Then another dinner, then another. She stared into her coffee. I fell in love with him completely, stupidly. He said he loved me too. Said we'd get married after the business deal closed. What happened? The deal closed. Marcus got access to our proprietary software. We were developing AI for real estate analytics. 2 weeks later, he broke up with me. Said it had been fun, but he'd met someone else. Her voice cracked. A month after that, Whitmore Investments launched their own AI platform. Using our code, our research, everything I'd given Marcus access to because I trusted him. Did you sue? My father wanted to, but Marcus had been careful. Everything was shared verbally or through my personal accounts, not company ones. We couldn't prove corporate espionage. All we could prove was that I'd been stupid enough to fall for his bullshit. That's not your fault. It feels like it is. I lost my job. My father barely speaks to me. I had to move back to Florida because the shame in Silicon Valley was too much. She looked up at me. But if you're willing to fight this, to make him answer for what he's done, then I want to help. I want my story on record too. It won't be easy. I know, but I'm tired of being ashamed. I'm tired of hiding, and I'm tired of watching him do this to other women. I made a decision. Sarah's building a case. She needs witnesses. If you're serious about this, I can connect you with her. I'm serious. I texted Sarah right there. She responded within minutes, asking to meet Rebecca that afternoon. After Rebecca left, I sat on the terrace thinking about all the women Marcus had hurt. How many of us had been told it was our fault? How many had been shamed into silence? Not anymore. Adrian came home around 2 looking tired. He kissed the top of my head absently, then seemed to realize what he'd done and pulled back. Sorry, habit. It's okay. And it was. The casual affection felt natural. Right. How was your morning? He asked. I told him about Rebecca, about her story, about how she was going to talk to Sarah. That's 3 of you now, Adrian said. You, Rebecca, and Sarah makes 3 witnesses. That might be enough to get law enforcement involved. Do you really think they'll investigate? The Whitmore family has so much money, so much influence. They do. But public pressure is a powerful thing. And if this story breaks right, if enough women come forward, if the media picks it up, even the Whitmore family won't be able to make it disappear. I wanted to believe him, wanted to believe justice was possible. That evening, I got a call from Sarah. She'd met with Rebecca. 2 more women had come forward after hearing about me. 5 witnesses now, 5 stories of calculated seduction and betrayal. I'm taking this to the press, Sarah said. With your permission. Anonymous sources for now, but enough to get the story out there. Do it, I said. Lena, once this breaks, there's no going back. Your name will come out eventually. People will know what happened. Good. Let them know. Let everyone know what Marcus Whitmore really is. Sarah was quiet for a moment. You're braver than I was. I'm angrier than you were. There's a difference. She laughed. Fair enough. I'll be in touch. I hung up and found Adrian watching me. So it's really happening, he said. It's really happening. He pulled me into his arms. No hesitation this time, just solid warmth and the steady beat of his heart against my ear. Whatever comes next, he said quietly. We face it together. I held on to him and let myself believe it. 3 days later, the story broke. The headline appeared on every major news site within hours. Sarah had timed it perfectly. Morning rush hour when people were checking their phones on the way to work, scrolling through social media over coffee. By noon, it was trending on 3 different platforms. I watched the numbers climb from Adrian's study. Shares, comments, reactions. The story was spreading faster than wildfire. My phone hadn't stopped ringing since 7 a.m. I'd turned off notifications around 8 because the constant buzzing was making me nauseous. Now it just vibrated silently on the desk, screen lighting up every few seconds with another call I wasn't going to answer. You should eat something, Adrian said from the doorway. He'd been hovering all morning, bringing coffee I didn't drink and food I couldn't stomach. I'm not hungry. You need to eat anyway. Adrian, Lana. He came into the room, crouched in front of my chair, so we were eye level. I know this is overwhelming. I know you're scared, but you're going to need your strength for what comes next. What comes next is my family disowning me and Marcus's lawyers destroying my credibility. Probably, but you knew that going in. His hand found mine. You can't back out now, too late for second thoughts. He was right. The story was out there, my name attached to it whether I liked it or not. Sarah had kept me anonymous in the article itself, but anyone with half a brain and access to Google could figure out who the Miami socialite who called off her wedding hours before the ceremony was. Elena appeared with a tray, toast, scrambled eggs, orange juice. She set it on the desk without a word, gave my shoulder a gentle squeeze, and left. I picked at the toast, got down about half of it before my stomach rebelled. Adrian's phone buzzed. He checked it, frowned. What? I asked. Marcus's PR team just released a statement. My stomach dropped. Already? They've been preparing for this. Probably had it ready to go the second the story broke. He pulled up the statement on his laptop, turned it so I could see. I read it twice, feeling sicker with each word. Marcus categorically denied all allegations, called them a coordinated smear campaign by disgruntled former acquaintances, suggested that I was bitter about the relationship ending and seeking revenge. His lawyer hinted at possible legal action for defamation. They're calling me a liar, I said flatly. Of course they are. That's page 1 of the crisis management playbook. Deny, deflect, discredit. What's page 2? Going after your credibility, which means they're probably digging into your past right now, looking for anything they can use against you. There's nothing to find. I've been boring my whole life. Doesn't matter. They'll take boring and spin it into something else. You were too clingy, too demanding, too emotional. You have mental health issues. You're unstable. I get it. I stood up, started pacing. They're going to make me look crazy. They're going to try. Whether they succeed depends on how we respond. We? Adrian stood too. You think I'm letting you face this alone? Sarah's already working on a counter-statement. I've got my own PR team ready to push back on anything the Whitmores put out. And I'm making some calls this afternoon that should make their lawyers think twice about going after you legally. What kind of calls? The kind that remind people I have resources too, and that coming after someone under my protection is a bad idea. The possessiveness in his voice should have bothered me. Instead, it felt like safety. What about my family? I asked. Have you heard anything from them? Your father left 3 messages. Your mother left 5. Claire's been calling every 15 minutes. What do they want? Your father wants you to issue a retraction. Your mother wants you to come home so you can discuss this properly. Claire, he paused. Claire's messages were mostly crying. She doesn't get to cry. She's not the victim here. I know, but she's also realizing that if the story's true about you, it might be true about her too. That Marcus didn't actually love her, that she was just collateral damage, a convenient backup plan. I stopped pacing. Should I call her? Do you want to? Did I? Part of me wanted to let Claire suffer, to let her figure out on her own that she'd been played just as badly as I had. But another part, the part that remembered us as kids before everything got complicated, felt something almost like pity. Not yet, I decided. Let her sit with it for a while. The afternoon got worse before it got better. Marcus's team released a second statement, this one more aggressive. They had witnesses who would attest to my erratic behavior in the weeks before the wedding. They had evidence, texts, emails, that showed I'd been obsessed with Marcus, unwilling to accept that the relationship was over. I stared at my phone when Sarah forwarded me the statement. I never sent those texts. I never wrote those emails. They're fabricated, Sarah said. We were on a video call, her face tight with anger on the screen. I'm having our tech expert verify it, but I'd bet money those messages are fake. Can we prove it? Maybe. It'll take time. But Lena, you need to prepare yourself. This is going to get uglier before it gets better. Marcus has unlimited resources and no conscience. He's going to throw everything at you. Great. That's just great. The good news is, 2 more women contacted me after the article dropped. They're ready to go on record. One of them has documentation, actual proof that Marcus targeted her for her family's business connections. That got my attention. What kind of proof? Emails, recordings of conversations. She was smart enough to save everything when she realized what he was doing. It corroborates everything we've been saying about his pattern of behavior. Will that be enough? Combined with the other testimonies? With your story? Yeah, I think it will be. Sarah leaned closer to her camera. But you need to stay strong. Don't respond to anything the Whitmores put out. Don't engage with anyone from your family until you're ready. And don't, under any circumstances, let them make you doubt yourself. After we hung up, I sat in the study feeling hollowed out. The weight of what I'd started was crushing. Every news site, every gossip blog, every social media platform, they were all talking about me, speculating, judging, taking sides. Some people believed me, posted messages of support, shared their own stories of manipulation and betrayal. Those messages made me cry. But others called me a liar, an attention seeker, a bitter ex trying to ruin a good man's reputation. Those messages made me want to throw my phone through a window. Adrian found me around 6, still in the study, staring at nothing. Come on, he said. You need a break. I don't want a break. I want this to be over. It's not going to be over for a while, so you need to take breaks or you'll lose your mind. He held out his hand. Trust me. I let him lead me downstairs, through the house, out to the terrace. The sun was setting, painting the sky in oranges and purples. It was beautiful in a way that felt almost offensive given the ugliness of the day. Sit, Adrian said, gesturing to one of the lounge chairs. I sat. He disappeared inside, came back a few minutes later with 2 glasses of wine and a blanket. Draped the blanket over my legs, the evening was cooling off, and handed me a glass. I'm not much of a drinker, I said. Tonight you are. Doctor's orders. You're not a doctor. I'm whatever you need me to be right now. I took a sip. The wine was good, expensive, probably cost more than my car insurance. I took another sip. We sat in silence for a while, watching the sun disappear into the ocean. Boats moved across the water in the distance. People were out there, living normal lives, having normal problems. The thought was almost funny. Can I ask you something? I said finally. Always. Do you regret it? Getting involved in this mess? Adrian was quiet for a moment. Then he said, No, not even a little bit. Even though it's complicated, even though my family's a disaster and Marcus is going to come after you too? Especially because of that. He turned to look at me. I told you why I hate Marcus, what he did to my brother, but I didn't tell you the whole truth about why I helped you that night. What's the whole truth? When I saw you sitting on those church steps, crying in that dress, I saw Alex. Not literally, but I saw what Marcus does to people, how he breaks them down, uses them up, leaves them destroyed, and I thought, not again, not if I can stop it. He paused. But then I got to know you, and it stopped being about Marcus or revenge or anything like that. Started being about you, about wanting to see you fight back, about wanting to be there when you did. That's a lot of pressure. You've already handled it. Everything you've done in the last 3 weeks, standing up to your father, going on record with Sarah, refusing to back down, that's all you. I just gave you a safe place to land while you figured it out. I don't feel very strong right now. Strength isn't about not being scared. It's about being terrified and doing the thing anyway. He reached over, took my hand. You're one of the strongest people I know. I wanted to believe him. Wanted to believe I was strong enough for whatever came next. That night, I couldn't sleep. My mind kept spinning, replaying the day, imagining tomorrow, catastrophizing about everything that could go wrong. Around 2 a.m., I gave up and went downstairs. Adrian was in the kitchen making tea. He looked up when I came in, unsurprised. Can't sleep either? I asked. Haven't been sleeping well for weeks. Comes with the territory. What territory? Watching someone you care about get torn apart in the media. He poured hot water into 2 mugs, added tea bags. It's harder than I expected. You've dealt with media stuff before. For myself, sure. But watching them come after you... He stopped, jaw tight. It's different. We took our tea to the living room, sat on opposite ends of the couch, not touching but close enough that I could feel his presence. Tell me about Alex, I said. Not the ending, the before. Adrian smiled, sad and fond. He was younger than me by 3 years. Annoying as hell when we were kids, always following me around, wanting to do whatever I was doing. But as we got older, we became real friends. He was the good one in the family, the one who saw the best in people, who believed in second chances, who thought everyone deserved kindness. Sounds like you loved him. I did. We all did. He was the heart of our family. Adrian stared into his tea. After he died, everything changed. My parents, they couldn't look at each other without seeing what they'd lost. They divorced within a year. My mom moved to Italy, couldn't stand to be in Miami anymore. My dad threw himself into work, barely spoke to me. The whole family just fractured. I'm sorry. Me too. But losing Alex taught me something, that the people who seem perfect, who seem too good for this world, they're the most vulnerable. Because people like Marcus see that goodness and they exploit it. They use it as a weakness. Alex wasn't weak. No, but he was trusting, and sometimes trust is its own kind of vulnerability. I thought about that. About how I trusted Marcus, trusted my family, trusted that people who said they loved me actually did. I don't know how to trust anymore, I said quietly. Yes, you do. You're trusting me right now. That's different. How? Because you've been honest from the start. You told me you were using me to hurt Marcus. You didn't pretend to be something you're not. That's exactly my point. Trust isn't about blind faith. It's about knowing someone's motivations and choosing to believe in them anyway. You know why I helped you. You know what I want. And you're still here. He was right. I'd made a choice to trust Adrian, even knowing he had his own agenda. But that choice felt different than the blind trust I'd given Marcus. What do you want now? I asked. Now that the story's out, now that we're in the middle of this war, what do you want? Adrian set down his tea, looked at me with those gray eyes that saw too much. Honestly, I want Marcus to suffer. I want him to lose everything the way Alex lost everything. I want him to understand what it feels like. He paused. But I also want you to come out of this okay. And if I have to choose between those 2 things, between revenge and your well-being, I'll choose you every time. You don't have to choose. I want him to suffer too. Good. Then we're on the same team. He moved closer, not touching yet, just close enough that I could feel the warmth of him. Can I ask you something now? He said. Fair's fair. What do you want? After this is all over, after Marcus faces consequences or doesn't, after your family either comes around or doesn't, what do you actually want for yourself? I'd been so focused on surviving, on fighting back, on making it through each day that I hadn't thought about the after, about what came next. I want to feel safe, I said slowly. Not just physically safe, but safe to be myself. Safe to make my own choices. Safe to fail without it destroying me. What else? I want to help people. Other women who've been through what I've been through. I want them to know they're not alone, that it's not their fault, that they can survive this. You're already doing that, just by speaking up. I want to do more. Then you will. Adrian's hand found mine. What else? I looked at him. At this man who'd picked me up when I was broken, who'd given me space to heal, who'd been honest even when honesty was brutal. I want this, I said quietly. Whatever this is, I want to see where it goes. Even knowing it started with revenge, with me using you? You're not using me anymore. No, I'm not. He leaned in, close enough that I could see the flecks of silver in his eyes. I'm falling for you instead, which wasn't part of the plan. Feelings are messy. The messiest. He kissed me then. Soft at first, tentative, giving me space to pull away if I wanted. I didn't want to. I kissed him back, let the kiss deepen, let everything else fall away except this moment. We ended up in his bed again. But this time felt different. Less desperate, more intentional, like we were choosing each other instead of just seeking comfort. Afterward, lying in the dark with Adrian's arm around me and his heartbeat steady under my ear, I felt something I hadn't felt in weeks. Peace. Morning came too soon. My phone started buzzing before the sun was fully up. I checked it reluctantly, expecting more hate messages or statement from Marcus's lawyers. Instead, I found a text from an unknown number. This is Jennifer Walsh from Sunrise, Florida. We'd still love to interview you. No pressure, but the offer stands. People want to hear your side of the story. I showed Adrian. He read it, handed the phone back. What are you thinking? He asked. I'm thinking if I don't control my own narrative, Marcus will control it for me. True, but TV is permanent. Once you're on camera, there's no taking it back. I know. I sat up, pulled the sheet around me. But maybe that's the point. Maybe I need to own this completely. Put my face to the story, own every word of it. You'll be giving up any remaining privacy. I don't have privacy anymore. The story's out. People are already speculating, digging into my past, making judgments. At least this way, I get to tell the truth on my own terms. Adrian studied me for a long moment. Then he nodded. Okay, let's do it. But on our conditions. You get editorial control, you get to review the footage before it airs, and Sarah and I are both there. You think they'll agree to that? For an exclusive with you? Yeah, they'll agree. I called Jennifer Walsh back. We negotiated for 20 minutes, but Adrian was right. She wanted the interview badly enough to give me control. We scheduled it for 3 days out, giving me time to prepare. Sarah came over that afternoon. We spent hours going over potential questions, crafting responses, figuring out exactly what I wanted to say and how I wanted to say it. Remember, Sarah coached, this isn't about attacking Marcus. It's about telling your truth. Be honest about what happened, how it made you feel, what you learned. Let the facts speak for themselves. What if I freeze up? What if I start crying on camera? Then you freeze up. Then you cry. You're human, Lena. You're allowed to have emotions about this. We practiced until my answers felt natural instead of rehearsed. Until I could talk about finding Marcus with Claire without my voice shaking. Until I could discuss the betrayal without falling apart. The day before the interview, I got a call from my mother. Lena, please, she said when I answered. We need to talk, in person. I don't think that's a good idea. I'm outside. I've been sitting in my car for 20 minutes trying to get the courage to ring the doorbell. I looked out the window. Sure enough, my mother's Mercedes was parked at the end of Adrian's driveway. Give me a minute, I said. I found Adrian in his study. My mother's here. She wants to talk. Want me to send her away? No, I need to deal with this. I took a breath a bit, but stay close, just in case. I'm not going anywhere. I met my mother at the front door. She looked smaller than I remembered, older, tired in a way that expensive moisturizer couldn't hide. Thank you for seeing me, she said. We went to the living room, sat in the same spots where Claire and I had sat, an ocean of distance between us. I saw the article, my mother said, about Marcus, about the other women. Everyone saw the article. Is it true? All of it? Yes. She closed her eyes. I'm so sorry. If I'd known. You did know. Maybe not the specifics, but you knew something was wrong. You knew Marcus was using me. You just didn't care because it benefited the family. That's not fair, Dad. It's completely fair. I leaned forward. Tell me the truth, Mom. Did you know about Claire and Marcus before the wedding? She flinched. I suspected. About a month before. I saw them together at the hotel, talking too close, and I suspected. But I didn't want to believe it, so I didn't ask questions. The admission hung between us. You knew, I said flatly. You knew my sister was sleeping with my fiancé, and you said nothing. I didn't know for sure. You suspected, which means you should have warned me, should have asked questions, should have protected me. My voice was rising. I didn't try to control it. You're my mother. You were supposed to protect me. I know, you're right. I failed you. Tears streamed down her face. I've failed you for years, always putting your father's business first, always prioritizing appearances over your happiness. I told myself I was preparing you for the real world, teaching you how to survive in our social circle. But really, I was being a coward. I'd imagined this conversation 100 times. Imagined screaming at her, making her hurt the way she'd let me hurt. But now that it was happening, I just felt tired. Why are you here? I asked. Because you're my daughter, and because I need you to know that I'm proud of you. That caught me off guard. What? For fighting back. For refusing to be silent. For being braver than I ever was. She wiped at her eyes. Your father is furious. He's threatening to sue Marcus, to sue the newspaper, to sue everyone. But I told him he needs to let it go. That you have every right to tell your story. How'd that go over? He's not speaking to me. Moved into the guest room, but I don't care. For once in my life, I'm choosing my daughter over his ego. I wanted to believe her. Wanted to think my mother was finally standing up for me. What about Claire? I asked. Claire's a mess. She won't come out of her room, won't talk to anyone. I think she's starting to realize she was played too. Good. She should realize it. Lena, no, I don't want to hear you defend her. She slept with my fiancé. She betrayed me. Whatever she's feeling now is her own fault. I know, you're right. My mother stood up. I just wanted you to know that I'm here. If you need anything, if you want to talk, if you just want someone to sit with you while you cry, I'm here. I know I haven't earned that privilege, but I'm offering anyway. She walked to the door, turned back. One more thing. Your interview tomorrow. I'll be watching. And no matter what you say, no matter who you implicate or what secrets you reveal, I support you. Completely. Then she left. I sat there for a long time, processing. Adrian appeared eventually, sat next to me without a word. She apologized, I said. I heard. I don't know if I can forgive her. You don't have to decide that today, or tomorrow, or next year. Forgiveness is a process, not a moment. I leaned into him. Your wisdom is annoying sometimes. I know, it's part of my charm. That night, I barely slept. My mind kept running through the interview, imagining everything that could go wrong. What if I said the wrong thing? What if I came across as bitter or vindictive? What if I cried too much or not enough? Around dawn, I gave up on sleep and went downstairs. Found Elena already in the kitchen, making coffee. Big day, she said, handing me a cup. Huge day. You're ready. I don't feel ready. No one ever does. But you'll do it anyway. That's what makes you strong. She squeezed my hand. Mr. Voss is very proud of you. He doesn't say it, but I see it. He told you that? He didn't have to. I've worked for him for 5 years. I know when he cares about someone. She smiled. And he cares about you very much. The interview was scheduled for 10 a.m. at a neutral location downtown. Adrian drove, one hand on the wheel and the other holding mine. Sarah met us in the parking garage, looking nervous for the first time since I'd met her. You okay? She asked. No, but I'm doing it anyway. That's the spirit. We went inside. The makeup artist did my face, keeping it natural but polished. The wardrobe person approved my outfit. Simple black dress, minimal jewelry. Nothing flashy, nothing that screamed, "Look at me." Jennifer Walsh came to check in as they were setting up. Remember, you have complete control. If I ask something you don't want to answer, just say so. We'll edit it out. Okay? And Lena, you're doing a brave thing. Really brave. They mic'd me up, positioned me in the chair, adjusted the lights. Adrian and Sarah stood off camera where I could see them. Adrian gave me a small nod. Sarah gave me a thumbs up. The cameras started rolling. Jennifer smiled warmly. Lena Carter, thank you for speaking with us today. Thank you for having me. Let's start at the beginning. How did you meet Marcus Whitmore? I took a breath, started talking. The words came easier than I expected. I told them about the charity gala, about Marcus's pursuit, about falling in love, or what I'd thought was love. I told them about the wedding planning, about my sister's increasing presence, about the small warning signs I'd ignored. Then I told them about the wedding day, about walking into that room and seeing my whole future explode, about running through Miami with nowhere to go. That must have been devastating, Jennifer said gently. It was, but it was also clarifying. In that moment, I realized I'd spent 3 years with someone who didn't love me, who'd been using me the whole time. And that hurt, but it also freed me to start asking questions. I told them about Sarah's investigation, about the other women, about realizing I wasn't alone. What do you want people to understand about this situation? Jennifer asked. I looked directly at the camera, thought about all the women watching who'd been through something similar, who were blaming themselves, thinking they were alone. I want people to understand that manipulation is insidious. It doesn't always look like abuse. Sometimes it looks like love. Sometimes it looks like a perfect relationship with a successful, charming man who says all the right things. I paused. But if someone is using you for your connections, for your money, for your family's business, that's not love. And it's not your fault. You didn't deserve it. And you have every right to speak up. The interview lasted 45 minutes. Jennifer asked about my family's reaction, about the business implications, about what I hoped would happen next. I answered honestly, carefully, trying to balance truth with grace. Finally, she asked, "What would you say to Marcus Whitmore if he was watching this right now?" I'd prepared for this question, practiced the answer until it was smooth. But in the moment, the prepared answer fell away. What came out was raw and real and completely unplanned. I'd say you underestimated me. You thought I'd be ashamed, that I'd hide, that I'd protect your reputation to save my own. But you were wrong. And every woman you've hurt, every life you've damaged, we're coming for you. We're telling our stories. We're exposing who you really are. And there's nothing you can do to stop us. Cut, the director called. The lights dimmed. Someone removed my microphone. My hands were shaking. Jennifer leaned forward. That was perfect, powerful, exactly what needed to be said. Adrian and Sarah appeared immediately. Adrian pulled me into his arms. "You did it," he said into my hair. "You were amazing." I went off script at the end. I know, it was perfect. Sarah was grinning. That last answer, that's going to be the soundbite everyone plays. "You just declared war." "Good," I said. "I'm ready for war." The headline hit the Miami Herald's website at 6 in the morning. Serial seducer, Miami businessman, accused of targeting women for financial gain. I was already awake when my phone started exploding. Texts, calls, notifications, all of them flooding in faster than I could process. Sarah had warned me it would be intense, but nothing prepared me for actually seeing it. The article didn't name me directly, but it didn't have to. Anyone who'd been following the society pages knew about the Carter Whitmore wedding that never happened. The timeline alone was enough for people to connect the dots. Adrian found me on the terrace, staring at my phone with shaking hands. "It's everywhere," I said. CNN picked it up. So did the Washington Post. This is national. He sat down beside me. Having second thoughts? No, maybe. I don't know. I scrolled through the comments section. A mistake I knew better than to make but couldn't help. Half the people are calling us liars. The other half are saying we deserved it for being stupid enough to fall for him. The internet is cruel. Don't read the comments. Too late. I set the phone down before I threw it off the terrace. My mother's called 17 times. My father sent a text saying I've destroyed the family name and he never wants to see me again. What about Claire? I pulled up her message. Read it aloud. I hope you're happy. You've ruined everything for everyone. Marcus and I were going to make this work, but now his reputation is destroyed. This is your fault. Adrian's expression darkened. She's delusional. She's in love, or thinks she is. I laughed bitterly. Give it 6 months. She'll be the next victim with a story to tell. My phone rang again. Unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. Is this Lena Carter? A woman's voice. Young, nervous. Who's asking? My name is Jennifer Walsh. I'm a producer for Sunrise, Florida. We'd like to interview you about the allegations against Marcus Whitmore. I'm not interested. We're prepared to offer complete editorial control. You tell your story your way. No ambush questions, no surprise confrontations. Just you, sharing what happened. I should have said no, should have hung up. But something about the idea of controlling my own narrative appealed to me. I need to think about it. Of course, but Miss Carter, other women are starting to come forward. Women who aren't part of Sarah Brennan's investigation. Women who saw the article and realized they weren't alone. Your story is giving them courage. Just wanted you to know that. She gave me her contact information and hung up. I sat there, phone in my hand, processing what she'd said. Other women. More than just the 5 Sarah had found. How many had Marcus hurt? What did they want? Adrian asked. I told him. He frowned. TV interview is risky. Once you're on camera, you can't take it back. I know, but maybe that's the point. Maybe I need to own this completely. Put my face to the story. Your father will lose his mind. My father already disowned me this morning. What's he going to do, disown me harder? Adrian smiled despite himself. Fair point. He stood up, held out his hand. Come on, I want to show you something before you decide. He led me to his study, pulled up a website on one of his monitors, a support forum for victims of manipulative relationships. The homepage was flooded with new posts, all from the last few hours. Look at this, Adrian said, clicking on one. The post was from a woman in Texas. She'd dated Marcus 3 years ago, before he'd moved on to someone else. She'd thought it was just a bad breakup. But seeing the article made her realize it was a pattern. She'd spent 3 years blaming herself, and now she understood it wasn't her fault. Adrian clicked another post, then another, dozens of them. Women sharing their stories, finding solidarity, realizing they weren't alone. You did this, Adrian said quietly. By being brave enough to speak up, you gave all of them permission to do the same. Tears stung my eyes. I didn't think it would matter this much. It always matters. That's what men like Marcus count on, that we'll stay silent, that shame will keep us isolated. He turned to face me. You broke that silence. Now decide how far you want to take it. I thought about it. About all those women posting their stories. About Jennifer Walsh's offer. About Marcus sitting somewhere, watching his carefully constructed image crumble. Set up the interview, I said, but I want Sarah there. And I want you there too. You sure? I've never been more sure of anything. The interview was scheduled for 3 days later. In the meantime, the story grew bigger. More women came forward. The count was up to 15 now, spanning 6 years. Marcus's lawyer released a statement denying everything, calling it a coordinated attack by jealous ex-girlfriends and opportunists. That just made people angrier. My father tried one more time to intervene. He showed up at Adrian's house with his lawyer, demanding I retract my statement and publicly apologize to the Whitmore family. I met him in the entry hall. Adrian stood behind me, a silent presence. No, I said before my father could start his prepared speech. Lena, listen to me. No, you listen. I spent my entire life doing what you wanted, marrying who you wanted, building the future you planned. And where did it get me? Betrayed, humiliated, and sitting on church steps in the rain with nowhere to go. That's dramatic. It's the truth. And now you want me to lie to protect Marcus Whitmore, to save a business deal. I won't do it. My father's face turned red. You ungrateful, careful, Adrian said quietly. You're in my house. You'll speak to her with respect or you'll leave. My father's attention shifted to Adrian. This is your doing. You poisoned her against her own family. I gave her a place to stay when her family abandoned her. There's a difference. You're using her, bitch. Everyone's been using her. The words burst out of me. You used me to seal business deals. Marcus used me for permits and connections. Claire used me to feel important. The only person who's been honest about his motivations is standing right behind me. My father stared at me like I'd slapped him. If you go through with this interview, you're no longer my daughter. Then I guess I'm not your daughter. The finality of it hung in the air. My father opened his mouth, closed it. His lawyer touched his arm, whispered something. Finally, my father turned and walked out. The door closed behind him. I waited for the sadness, the regret. It didn't come. Just relief. You okay? Adrian asked. Yeah, I really am. The day of the interview arrived too fast. I woke up with my stomach in knots, second-guessing everything. What if I froze on camera? What if I said the wrong thing? What if this made everything worse? Elena helped me get ready. She'd brought in a stylist who did my hair and makeup professionally, but not overdone. I wore a simple navy dress, Sarah's suggestion. Look credible, she'd said. Not like you're trying too hard. The interview was being filmed at a neutral location, a studio in downtown Miami. Adrian drove me there himself, both security guards following in a second car. Sarah met us in the parking garage. You ready? She asked. No, but let's do it anyway. The studio was smaller than I expected. Just one main set with 2 chairs facing each other, cameras positioned around them, lights that were too bright. Jennifer Walsh was already there, reviewing notes with her crew. She came over when she saw us. Mid-40s, professional but warm. Lena, thank you for doing this. I know it's not easy. Just stick to what we agreed on. Absolutely. You have complete control. If I ask anything you don't want to answer, just say so. We can edit it out. They mic'd me up, had me sit in one of the chairs, adjusted the lights. Adrian and Sarah stood off to the side, just out of frame where I could see them. Jennifer settled into the other chair. Whenever you're ready. The cameras started rolling. Jennifer did a brief introduction for the viewers, then turned to me. Lena, thank you for speaking with us. Can you start by telling us how you met Marcus Whitmore? I took a breath, started talking. I told them about the charity gala 3 years ago, about Marcus's focused pursuit, about falling in love or thinking I had, about the engagement, the wedding planning, my sister's increasing presence in our lives. And the day of your wedding, Jennifer prompted gently. Can you walk us through what happened? This was the hard part, the part I'd relived in nightmares for weeks. I went to the bridal suite at the hotel to check on something. I walked into the wrong room and found Marcus with my sister Claire. I stopped, swallowed. They were having sex in the bathroom of the suite where I was supposed to be getting ready to marry him. Jennifer's expression was compassionate. What did you do? I ran. I didn't know what else to do. I just ran. I told them about ending up on the church steps, about Adrian finding me. I was careful here, following Sarah's advice to keep Adrian's role factual without making him look like a savior or a manipulator. After that, Sarah Brennan contacted me, I continued. She told me about other women Marcus had targeted, about a pattern of behavior spanning years. And I realized I wasn't alone. How many women have come forward now? Jennifer asked. 15 that we know of, but I suspect there are more. What do you want people to understand about this situation? I looked directly at the camera. I want people to understand that this isn't about heartbreak or revenge. This is about a man who systematically targets and manipulates women for professional gain, who destroys lives and careers to advance his business interests. And I want other women who've been through this to know they're not alone. It wasn't your fault. You didn't deserve it, and you have the right to speak up. The interview continued for another 20 minutes. Jennifer asked about my family's reaction, about the business implications, about what I hoped would happen next. I answered honestly, carefully, trying to sound strong even when my voice shook. Finally, Jennifer said, "Last question. What would you say to Marcus Whitmore if he was watching this right now?" I hadn't prepared for that one, but the answer came easily. I'd say you underestimated me. You thought I'd be too ashamed or too scared to fight back. But you were wrong. And every woman you've hurt, every life you've damaged, we're all watching you now. Your carefully constructed image is gone, and you're going to have to answer for what you've done. Cut, the director called. The lights dimmed. Someone removed my microphone. Jennifer shook my hand. That was powerful, she said. Really powerful. This is going to make an impact. I hoped she was right. Adrian drove me home in silence. I was wrung out, exhausted from holding myself together through the interview. When we got back to his house, I went straight to my room and collapsed on the bed. I must have fallen asleep because the next thing I knew, it was dark outside and Adrian was sitting on the edge of the bed. Hey, he said softly, you've been asleep for 4 hours. What time is it? Almost 9. You hungry? I was starving. We went downstairs, where Elena had left dinner warming in the oven. We ate in comfortable silence, then moved to the living room. The interview airs tomorrow morning, Adrian said. Sarah thinks it's going to be big. Good big or bad big? Depends on your definition. Media attention big, definitely. The Whitmore family is already preparing their counteroffensive. What does that mean? Lawyers, PR firms, probably some strategically leaked stories to make you look bad. They're going to fight dirty. I'd expected that. Let them. I'm done caring what they think. Adrian studied me. You've changed. In the weeks you've been here, you're harder. Is that bad? No, just different. The woman who showed up on my doorstep in a wedding dress would never have done that interview. That woman was a coward. That woman was surviving the best way she knew how. There's no shame in that. He moved closer. But I like this version too. The one who fights back. The air between us shifted. We'd been dancing around this for weeks, the attraction, the connection, whatever this was building between us. Living in the same house, sharing meals and conversations and increasingly intimate moments without crossing any lines. Adrian, I said quietly. Yeah? I don't want to be alone tonight. He understood what I was asking, what I wasn't asking. You sure? I'm sure. He kissed me then, gentle at first, testing, making sure this was what I wanted. When I kissed him back, it deepened. Different from the comfort he'd offered before. This was heat and need and weeks of tension finally breaking. We made it upstairs somehow, hands and mouths in desperate urgency. Adrian's room this time, not the guest suite, his bed, his space. We can stop, he said at one point. If this is too much, too fast, don't stop. So he didn't. Later, much later, I lay in his arms trying to remember the last time I'd felt this calm, this right. Maybe never. What are you thinking? Adrian asked. That I should probably feel guilty, that it's too soon after Marcus, that this is complicated, that I'm rebounding or making bad decisions. But you don't feel guilty. No, I searched for the word. Free. His arms tightened around me. Good. I fell asleep like that, wrapped in Adrian Voss and the strange safety I'd found in the most unexpected place. The interview aired the next morning. I didn't watch it, couldn't make myself sit through seeing my own face on television, hearing my own voice talk about the worst moments of my life. But Adrian did, on the monitor in his study, while I paced the terrace and tried not to throw up from nerves. He came out after it ended. It's good, really good. You came across exactly how we wanted. Credible, sympathetic, strong. What's the reaction? He showed me his phone. Twitter was exploding. The hashtag Believe Lena was trending. So was hashtag Whitmore Predator. News outlets were picking up the story, expanding on it, finding new angles. And then, around noon, something shifted. Marcus's lawyer held a press conference. I watched it on Adrian's tablet, sick fascination keeping me glued to the screen. The lawyer was smooth, practiced. He called the allegations baseless, said Marcus was the victim of a coordinated smear campaign orchestrated by Adrian Voss, a known criminal with a grudge against the Whitmore family. He produced evidence, emails I'd allegedly sent Marcus after the wedding cancellation, begging him to take me back. Those are fake, I said immediately. I never sent those. I know, Adrian said grimly, but proving they're fake will take time. In the meantime, they're muddying the water. The lawyer continued. He had a psychologist ready to testify that I showed signs of emotional instability and vindictiveness. He had witnesses who would swear I'd pursued Marcus aggressively, not the other way around. He painted a picture of a jealous, unstable woman seeking revenge. It was masterful. Horrible, but masterful. By evening, the narrative had split. Half the internet still believed me. The other half thought I was exactly what Marcus's lawyer described. "This is what I was afraid of," Sarah said when she called. "They're making this about your credibility instead of his pattern of behavior." So what do? We keep fighting. I'm working with a forensic analyst to prove those emails are fabricated. And 3 more women contacted me today. They're ready to go public, too. 3 more? Marcus is panicking. He's making mistakes, pushing too hard on the counter-narrative. That's when people slip up. I wanted to believe her. Wanted to believe truth would win. That night, I got a call from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Lena Carter?" A man's voice. Familiar, but I couldn't place it. "Who is this?" "Someone who knows the truth about Marcus Whitmore. Meet me tomorrow. Bayfront Park, noon. Come alone." "I'm not going anywhere alone." "Then you'll never get the evidence you need to destroy him. Your choice." He hung up. I stared at the phone. Adrian was in the shower. I should tell him about this. Should definitely not consider going to meet a mysterious stranger. But what if this person really had evidence? What if this was the break we needed? I made a decision I probably shouldn't have. I texted the number back. "I'll be there." The response came immediately. "Smart. Don't tell Adrian Voss. If he shows up, I disappear." I deleted the messages. Felt guilty about it. But I'd made my choice. The next morning, I told Adrian I needed to go shopping. Pick up some of my own clothes, personal items. He offered to come with me. I said I needed to do this alone, needed to feel normal for a few hours. He looked skeptical, but didn't argue. "Take Marcus with you." "Your driver?" "And bodyguard. Non-negotiable." I agreed, figured I could lose him once I got to the park. Marcus dropped me at the mall. I went inside, walked through to the other entrance, caught an Uber to Bayfront Park. Easy. The park was busy with lunch crowds and tourists. I found an empty bench near the water, sat down, and waited. Noon came and went. Nobody approached. I was starting to think it was a setup when a man sat down next to me. Mid-50s, gray suit, expensive watch. He looked like every other businessman in Miami. "Miss Carter," he said without looking at me. "Thank you for coming." "Who are you?" "Someone who worked for Marcus Whitmore for 10 years. Until last week when I realized I couldn't stomach it anymore." "What's your name?" "Doesn't matter. What matters is what I have." He pulled out a flash drive, held it low where only I could see it. "This contains financial records, emails, recorded phone calls. Everything you need to prove Marcus's pattern of targeting women for business gain, including proof that he fabricated those emails his lawyer showed yesterday." My heart raced. "Why are you giving this to me?" "Because I have a daughter your age. And watching what Marcus did to you, what his family is doing to you now, I couldn't stand by anymore." He set the flash drive on the bench between us. "There's enough here to get him arrested, fraud, extortion, possibly more. But you need to get it to the right people. Sarah Brennan, the state attorney's office, someone who can act on it." "Why not go to them yourself?" "Because I signed NDAs. I violate them. I lose everything. But if someone else finds this evidence and brings it to light..." He shrugged. "I'm just a former employee who had no idea what was happening." He stood up. "One more thing. Marcus knows you're here. He's had someone following you since the interview aired. You've got maybe 5 minutes before they find you." "What?" But he was already walking away, disappearing into the crowd. I grabbed the flash drive, shoved it in my pocket, and started moving. Tried to look casual while scanning the area for anyone watching me. That's when I saw them. 2 men in dark suits moving through the crowd with purpose, looking for someone, looking for me. I turned and ran. I dodged through the crowd, heart hammering, the flash drive burning a hole in my pocket. Behind me, I could hear shouting. The 2 men were gaining. I cut through a group of tourists taking photos, nearly knocked over a woman with a stroller, muttered an apology I didn't have time to mean. The park exit was ahead, but they'd catch me before I made it to the street. Then a hand grabbed my arm and yanked me sideways into a cluster of palm trees. "Adrian, what the hell are you doing here?" I gasped. "Saving your ass, again." He pulled me close, shielding me with his body as the 2 men ran past, scanning the crowd. You really think I wouldn't notice you ditching my driver? I had to. Later, move. He guided me through the trees to a service entrance I hadn't known existed. A black SUV was waiting, engine running. We climbed in and the driver pulled away before the door was even closed. I slumped against the seat, trying to catch my breath. Adrian was staring at me with an expression somewhere between fury and relief. What the hell were you thinking? He demanded. Going off alone after everything? I got evidence. I pulled out the flash drive. Marcus's former employee, he said this has everything. Financial records, emails, proof the documents his lawyer showed were fabricated. Adrian's anger shifted to something else. He took the flash drive carefully, like it might explode. Who gave you this? He wouldn't say his name, just said he worked for Marcus for 10 years and couldn't stomach it anymore. Could be a trap. Or it could be exactly what we need. Adrian pulled out his phone, made a call. Sarah, I need you at my place in 20 minutes. We've got something. He hung up, then made another call. David, I'm sending you a flash drive. I need it analyzed for viruses, malware, anything suspicious. Then I need everything on it backed up to 3 separate secure locations. I'm serious. This thing doesn't leave your sight until it's done. He gave the driver an address, then turned back to me. If this is real, if it's what he says it is, this changes everything. And if it's fake, then we're right back where we were yesterday, but at least we'll know. We drove in silence for a few minutes. Then Adrian said more quietly, You scared the hell out of me. When Marcus called and said you'd disappeared, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to worry you. You could have been hurt or taken. Marcus is desperate, Lena. Desperate people do stupid, dangerous things. I know, but I couldn't pass up the chance. He shook his head but didn't argue further. We pulled up to a building in the financial district, went inside to what looked like a high-security tech firm. Adrian's friend David met us in the lobby, young, brilliant-looking, with the kind of focused energy that suggested he lived on coffee and code. This is it? David asked, taking the flash drive. That's it. How long will the analysis take? Couple hours for the security check, longer to go through all the data if it's clean. Do the security check first. Call me the second you know. We left David to his work and went back to Adrian's house. Sarah was already there, pacing the living room. Tell me everything, she said as soon as we walked in. I did. About the mysterious call, the meeting, the man in the gray suit, what he'd said about the flash drive's contents. Sarah listened without interrupting, her expression growing more intense with each detail. If this is real, she said when I finished, we can take it straight to the state attorney. Financial fraud, falsifying evidence, extortion, Marcus could be looking at serious prison time. And if it's not real, then someone just wasted a lot of our time and energy. She checked her phone. I've got connections at the state attorney's office. Good people who will move fast if the evidence is solid. But they'll need to verify everything independently. Adrian's phone rang. David. Talk to me, Adrian said, putting it on speaker. It's clean. No viruses, no tracking software, nothing malicious, just data. A lot of data. What kind of data? Financial records going back 6 years, email archives, recorded phone conversations. Looks like this guy was recording meetings without anyone knowing. Transaction records linking shell companies to Whitmore Investments. And David paused. There's a file labeled Carter Wedding. You're going to want to see this. My stomach dropped. What's in it? Internal emails between Marcus Whitmore and his father. They're discussing the marriage as a business transaction. There's a projected timeline for acquiring your father's permits, a breakdown of expected profits, contingency plans if you refuse to go through with it. David's voice was grim. They had a backup plan involving your sister from the beginning. If you balked at the marriage, they were going to pivot to Claire. The room spun. What? It's all here. Emails, strategy documents, everything. This wasn't just Marcus being a cheating bastard. This was calculated from day one. I sat down hard. Adrian's hand found my shoulder, steadying. Send everything to my secure server, Adrian told David. Then make those backups. I want copies in 3 different locations by tonight. Already on it. He hung up. Sarah was staring at me with something like horror. They plan to use your sister as a backup, she said slowly. If you didn't work out, Claire was already being positioned to seduce Marcus, to fall in love with him, to give them the same access. I laughed. sharp and bitter. She thought she won, thought she stole him from me, but she was part of the plan all along. Do you want to tell her? Adrian asked carefully. Did I? Part of me wanted Claire to know how thoroughly she'd been played. But another part, the part that remembered us as kids before competition and jealousy ruined everything, just felt sad for her. Not yet, I said. Let her figure it out on her own. Sarah pulled out her laptop. I'm calling Assistant State Attorney Mitchell. She's been sympathetic to our case but needed more evidence. This should be enough. She made the call, spoke in low, urgent tones for several minutes. When she hung up, she was smiling. She wants to meet, tonight. She's bringing her investigative team. Everything moved fast after that. David delivered the backed-up files personally. Sarah arrived with her own evidence, her witness statements, everything she'd been building for 3 years. Assistant State Attorney Karen Mitchell showed up with 3 investigators and a prosecutor who specialized in white-collar crime. They spread out across Adrian's dining room table, laptops and documents covering every surface. I watched them work, these people who were finally taking this seriously, and felt something I hadn't felt in weeks. Hope. Around midnight, Mitchell looked up from her computer. We've got enough to get warrants, multiple warrants. I'm calling a judge now. What happens after the warrants? I asked. We execute them, simultaneously. Whitmore Investments, Marcus's home, his father's office. We seize computers, financial records, everything. And if what's on this drive is accurate, and my preliminary review says it is, we'll have enough for arrests by tomorrow afternoon. Tomorrow afternoon. Less than 24 hours and Marcus Whitmore could be in custody. Mitchell made her calls. One of the investigators printed documents, prepared briefing materials. The prosecutor reviewed statutes, building the case that would go before a grand jury. Sarah squeezed my hand. We did it. We actually did it. It's not over yet. No, but we're close. Mitchell and her team left around 2 in the morning, taking copies of everything. Sarah followed shortly after, promising to call as soon as she heard anything. Then it was just me and Adrian sitting in his living room, surrounded by the debris of the evening's work. You should get some sleep, he said. I'm too wired. Me too. We sat in silence for a while. Then Adrian said, What happens after? After Marcus is arrested, after the trial, after all of this is over? I don't know. I haven't thought that far ahead. You should. You'll need to rebuild. Figure out what you want your life to look like. What do you want your life to look like? I asked. He was quiet for a long moment. For 3 years, all I wanted was revenge. To hurt Marcus the way he hurt my family. To make him pay for what happened to Alex. He looked at me. But somewhere along the way, that stopped being enough. Started wanting something else. What? This. You. A future that isn't built on anger and revenge. My heart did something complicated in my chest. Adrian, you don't have to say anything. I just wanted you to know. Whatever happens next, whatever you decide, I'm not going anywhere unless you tell me to. I kissed him. Not the desperate, urgent kissing from before. Something softer, more certain. I'm not telling you to go anywhere, I said against his mouth. We made it upstairs eventually. Fell asleep, tangled together, my head on his chest, his heartbeat steady under my ear. I woke to sunlight and the sound of my phone ringing. Sarah. Turn on the news, she said without preamble. I fumbled for the remote, turned on the TV. Every channel was showing the same thing, footage of federal agents entering Whitmore Investments, Marcus being led out in handcuffs. His father, also in handcuffs, shouting at reporters. The headline scrolling across the bottom. Whitmore father and son arrested on fraud and extortion charges. Oh my God, I breathed. Mitchell moved fast, Sarah said. Warrants were executed at 6 this morning. They've arrested Marcus, his father, and 3 other executives. There's a press conference at 9. Adrian appeared in the doorway, already dressed. He saw the TV and smiled. Actually smiled. Something fierce and satisfied. It's really happening, I said. It's really happening, Sarah confirmed. I'll call you after the press conference. I hung up and just stared at the screen. Marcus in handcuffs. Marcus, who'd controlled and manipulated and destroyed so many lives, finally facing consequences. My phone started ringing again. This time, my mother. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won out. Lena? Her voice was shaking. Have you seen the news? I have. This is... I don't understand. Marcus is arrested? Your father is talking to lawyers, but nobody knows what's happening. What's happening is Marcus Whitmore is a criminal, and he's finally being held accountable. But the wedding, the business deal? There's no business deal, Mom. There never was. Just Marcus using our family to commit fraud. She was silent for a long moment, then quietly, I'm sorry. The apology caught me off guard. What? I'm sorry for not believing you, for pushing you toward a marriage that would have destroyed you, for choosing business over my own daughter. Her voice broke. I've been a terrible mother. I didn't know what to say to that. Part of me wanted to agree, to list all the ways she'd failed me. But another part, the part that remembered her braiding my hair when I was little, teaching me to bake cookies, defending me when I got in trouble at school, just felt tired. Yeah, I said finally. You have been. Can you forgive me? I don't know. Maybe someday, but not today. That's fair. She took a shaky breath. Your father wants to talk to you about reconciling, about, I'm not interested in anything Dad has to say. Lena, he chose business over me every single time. He was willing to let Marcus use me, hurt me, destroy me, as long as it benefited his company. I don't forgive that. I won't forgive that. He's still your father. Biologically, sure, but that's all he is. He stopped being my dad the day he told me to go back to Marcus. I hung up before she could respond. Felt bad about it for approximately 3 seconds. Adrian handed me coffee. Your mom? Apologizing, kind of, in her own limited way. You going to reconcile? With her maybe, eventually, with my father? I shook my head. Some things you don't come back from. The press conference started at 9. Assistant State Attorney Mitchell stood at a podium, flanked by investigators and the prosecutor. This morning, in coordination with federal authorities, we executed warrants at multiple locations connected to Whitmore Investments. As a result, Marcus Whitmore, Richard Whitmore, and 3 other executives have been arrested on charges including fraud, extortion, falsification of evidence, and conspiracy to commit wire fraud. She detailed the charges, the evidence, the scope of the investigation. Then she said something that made my breath catch. This case came to our attention through the brave actions of multiple women who came forward to report Mr. Whitmore's pattern of predatory behavior. These women showed tremendous courage in the face of significant pressure to stay silent. This prosecution would not have been possible without them. Multiple cameras flashed. Reporters shouted questions. Will you be calling these women as witnesses? If the case goes to trial, yes, but we're hopeful we can secure a plea agreement before that becomes necessary. What about the other allegations? The romantic manipulation? Those aspects fall outside criminal prosecution but will be relevant to establishing pattern of behavior. Mr. Whitmore systematically targeted women from wealthy or influential families, cultivated romantic relationships under false pretenses, and used those relationships to gain business advantages. While some of that behavior isn't technically illegal, it demonstrates the calculated nature of his crimes. The press conference continued, but I stopped listening. It was real. Actually, officially, legally real. My phone exploded with notifications. Messages from the other women, Rebecca, the others who'd come forward, messages from reporters requesting interviews, messages from people I hadn't heard from in years, some supportive, some just nosy. One message stood out. From Claire. I need to talk to you, please. I showed Adrian. He read it and raised an eyebrow. You going to respond? I don't know. Part of me wants to let her twist in the wind, but she's your sister. Unfortunately. I thought about it. About Claire, who'd spent our whole lives competing with me, who'd thought she'd won by stealing Marcus, who had no idea she'd been a pawn in someone else's game. Come to Adrian's house, 2 p.m. Come alone. Her response was immediate. Thank you. Claire showed up exactly at 2, driving a car I didn't recognize. She looked terrible. No makeup, hair pulled back messily, wearing yoga pants and an oversized sweatshirt. Not the polished, put-together Claire I'd known my whole life. Adrian let her in but stayed close, protective. Can we talk alone? Claire asked, eyes on me. Anything you want to say, you can say in front of Adrian. She flinched but nodded. We sat in the living room, an ocean of space between us on opposite couches. I saw the news, Claire said, about Marcus, the arrests. Everyone saw the news. I didn't know about any of it. The fraud, the other women, Her voice broke. I thought he loved me. He didn't love either of us. We were both just tools. But you got out. You saw through it. I was so stupid. You weren't stupid. You were manipulated. There's a difference. Claire looked up, surprised. You're defending me? I'm stating facts. Marcus Whitmore is a sociopath who destroyed a lot of lives. You were one of his victims too, even if you don't want to admit it. I slept with your fiancé. Yeah, you did, and I'm still furious about that. But I also know now that it wasn't random. They planned it. Marcus and his father, they had contingency plans involving you from the beginning. If I didn't work out, you were the backup. Claire's face went white. What? I pulled out my laptop, opened the file David had sent, showed her the emails, watched her read her own name in Marcus's correspondence, discussed like a commodity, a useful asset, Plan B. Oh my God, she whispered. He never loved you, Claire. He was using you the same way he used me. The only difference is I found out before the wedding and you found out now. She started crying, real ugly sobs that shook her whole body. I watched, waiting to feel satisfaction, waiting to enjoy her pain. Instead, I just felt tired. I'm sorry, Claire gasped out between sobs. I'm so sorry. I was jealous and petty, and I wanted what you had, and I didn't care who I hurt. And now I've lost everything, and I deserve it, but I'm still sorry. Yeah, you do deserve it. I know. But I'm going to tell you something anyway, because you're my sister, and apparently I'm not as vindictive as I thought. I leaned forward. This doesn't define you. What Marcus did, what you did, all of it, it doesn't have to be the end of your story. You can rebuild. Figure out who you are without comparing yourself to me, without needing to compete or win or prove anything. How? Therapy would be a good start, and maybe actually facing consequences instead of running away from them. Claire wiped her eyes. Are you going to forgive me? Someday. Maybe. But not today. Today you get to sit with what you did and figure out how to be better. That's fair. She stood up. Thank you for talking to me, for not just destroying me. I'm not like Marcus. I don't destroy people for fun. After Claire left, Adrian pulled me into his arms. That was big of you. She's still my sister, unfortunately. You think you'll actually forgive her? Probably. In like 5 years, after extensive therapy for both of us. I leaned into him. Family's complicated. Tell me about it. The next few weeks were chaos. The Whitmore case dominated the news. More women came forward, expanding the scope of the investigation. The prosecutors built an airtight case. Fraud, extortion, tax evasion, the works. Marcus's lawyers tried to negotiate a plea deal. The state attorney's office refused. They were going to trial. Sarah called me almost daily with updates. The grand jury had indicted. Bail had been set impossibly high. Marcus's assets were frozen. His father's too. The carefully constructed Whitmore empire was crumbling in real time. My father tried to distance himself from the Whitmores, claiming he'd been a victim too. Nobody bought it. Carter Development stock took a hit. Several major investors pulled out. For the first time in his life, my father faced actual consequences for his choices. I didn't feel bad about it. 3 weeks after the arrests, I got a call from Assistant State Attorney Mitchell. We've got a plea agreement on the table, she said. Marcus will plead guilty to fraud and extortion, 10 years in federal prison. His father's taking a separate deal, 7 years. They're actually going to prison? They're actually going to prison. The plea hearing is next week. I wanted you to know in case you want to be there. I thought about it. About sitting in a courtroom watching Marcus plead guilty, watching him face justice. I'll be there, I said. The hearing was in a federal courthouse downtown. Sarah met me outside, along with Rebecca and 3 of the other women who'd testified. We walked in together, a united front. Marcus was already seated with his lawyers. He looked thinner, older, defeated. When he saw me, something flickered in his eyes. Regret, maybe. Or just anger at being caught. I didn't care which. The judge entered. Everyone stood. The proceeding began. Marcus's lawyer entered the guilty plea. The judge confirmed Marcus understood the charges, the consequences, asked if anyone had coerced him. "No, Your Honor," Marcus said quietly. "And you understand that by pleading guilty, you're waiving your right to trial?" "Yes, Your Honor." The judge reviewed the plea agreement, asked a few more questions. Then she looked directly at Marcus. "Mr. Whitmore, you systematically targeted and manipulated women for financial gain. You destroyed careers, relationships, and lives. You showed no remorse until you were caught. The fact that your actions weren't all technically illegal doesn't make them less reprehensible." She paused. "I'm accepting this plea agreement because it guarantees incarceration and restitution. But I want you to understand something. What you did makes you a predator, and predators belong in cages." She banged her gavel. 10 years in federal prison, followed by 5 years supervised release. Court is adjourned. It was done. Actually, officially, finally done. I walked out of that courthouse feeling lighter than I had in months. Sarah hugged me. Rebecca hugged me. We stood on the courthouse steps, cameras flashing, reporters shouting questions. Sarah stepped up to the microphone. Someone thrust at her. Today, Marcus Whitmore was held accountable for years of predatory behavior. This wouldn't have been possible without the courage of the women who came forward. We hope this sends a message that no one is above the law, no matter how wealthy or connected, and that women who speak up will be heard. Simple. Perfect. True. Adrian was waiting by his car. I walked over, let him pull me close. "How do you feel?" he asked. "Like I can finally breathe." 2 months later, he stood in the bedroom of my new apartment, my own apartment, paid for with my own money, chosen by me alone, and surveyed the boxes still waiting to be unpacked. I'd signed the lease last week. It wasn't huge, wasn't fancy like Adrian's house or my father's estate, just a 2-bedroom in Coral Gables with good light and a balcony facing the water. Mine. Adrian appeared in the doorway carrying coffee and pastries from the bakery down the street. "You've been up for an hour and haven't unpacked a single box." I'm savoring the moment. By staring at cardboard? By appreciating that I get to choose where everything goes, that this space is mine and nobody can tell me what to do with it. He set down the food, wrapped his arms around me from behind. "You're allowed to be excited about your own apartment." "I am excited. I'm just also—" I paused, searching for the word. Processing. 3 months ago, I was about to marry a sociopath. 2 months ago, I was living in your guest room. Now I have my own place, my own life, my own future. Scary? Terrifying. Also amazing. We spent the day unpacking. Adrian helped hang curtains, assemble furniture, argue about where the couch should go. Elena stopped by with a housewarming gift, a set of expensive cookware, and a handwritten recipe book. "For when you're ready to cook for yourself," she said. "Or for Adrian when he comes to visit." "I'm definitely coming to visit," Adrian confirmed after she left. "You better. I have a king-sized bed and everything." We christened the new bed that afternoon. Then we ordered pizza and ate it on the floor because my dining table hadn't been delivered yet. "What's next?" Adrian asked. "You've got the apartment. What else is on the list?" "Figure out what I want to do for work. I've been coasting on my trust fund, but I need something purposeful. Any ideas?" Sarah asked if I wanted to help with her nonprofit. She's expanding it, focusing on helping women who've been victims of financial manipulation and coercion. I'd be good at that. You'd be great at that. What about you? What's next for Adrian Voss? He was quiet for a moment. I've been thinking about Alex, about how he'd want me to spend my life. And I don't think revenge and anger is the answer. What is the answer? Building something good, something that matters. He looked at me. Maybe doing that with you. My heart did that complicated thing again. Like what? Like a foundation in Alex's name, supporting mental health resources, helping people who've lost someone to suicide. Like maybe getting involved in Sarah's nonprofit too, using my resources and connections for something other than vendetta. You'd be good at that. We'd be good at that, together. 6 months later, I was sitting in Sarah's office going over applications for the mentorship program we'd just launched. 20 women in our first cohort, all survivors of manipulative relationships, all ready to rebuild. My phone buzzed. A text from my mother. Your father wants to have dinner, to apologize properly. I know you're not ready, but I wanted to ask. I stared at that message for a long time. My father had tried reaching out several times over the past months. I'd ignored most of it, but maybe it was time. Maybe. Not ready yet, but maybe someday. Her response was immediate. That's all I can ask. I love you. Love you too, Mom. Progress. Slow, painful, complicated progress. But progress. That evening, Adrian picked me up from work. We drove to South Beach, to the restaurant where we'd had our first real conversation after everything fell apart. Why are we here? I asked. Because I have a question to ask you, and I wanted to do it somewhere meaningful. My heart started racing. Adrian, relax. Not that question. Not yet. We've got time for that. He took my hand. But I do want to ask, would you move in with me? Not because you need a place to stay. Not because I'm protecting you from anything. Just because I love you, and I want to wake up next to you every day and build this life we're creating together. I'd been living on my own for 6 months. Finally independent, finally free, finally my own person. And I wanted to say yes. On one condition, I said. What's that? We get a new house, not your place, not mine, somewhere we choose together, somewhere that's ours from the beginning. Adrian smiled. Deal. We found a house in Coconut Grove 3 weeks later. Not a mansion, not a showplace, just a comfortable home with room to grow, a yard for the dog we immediately adopted, and enough space for both of us to work. Sarah came to the housewarming party. So did Rebecca and the other women from the support group. So did Elena, who'd become something like a friend. So did David and Adrian's security team and a dozen other people who'd become our chosen family. My mother came too, without my father. We were working on rebuilding our relationship, slowly. Some wounds healed, some didn't. We were learning to live with both. Claire didn't come. We talked a few times, careful conversations that never went too deep. She was in therapy, working through her own issues. Maybe someday we'd be close again. Maybe not. I'd made peace with both possibilities. That night, after everyone left, Adrian and I sat on our back porch watching the sunset. You happy? He asked. Yeah, I really am. Even with everything that happened? Everything you lost? I didn't lose anything that mattered. I lost a fake fiancé who never loved me. I lost a relationship with a father who only valued me as a business asset. I lost a life that was killing me slowly. I leaned into him. But I found myself, found what I'm capable of, found you, found a purpose. That's not losing. That's winning. I love you, Adrian said. I love you too. A year after that, almost to the day since I'd sat on those cathedral steps in a ruined wedding dress, Adrian proposed for real. Not at sunset on a beach with a ring that cost a fortune. In our kitchen, wearing sweatpants, with a ring he'd designed himself that fit perfectly. I said yes without hesitation. We got married 6 months later. Small ceremony, just the people who mattered. Sarah was my maid of honor. Rebecca and the other women from the support group were bridesmaids. My mother came. My father didn't. I didn't miss him. Claire sent a card. We'd graduated to cards. It was something. The ceremony was nothing like the wedding I'd almost had. No 300 guests, no $60,000 in flowers, no business implications. Just me and Adrian and the people we loved, promising each other a future built on honesty and choice and actual love. Standing at the altar, a simple arch of flowers in Sarah's backyard, I thought about the woman I'd been a year and a half ago, the one who'd thought she knew what love was, who'd been willing to sacrifice herself for family and duty and other people's expectations. I didn't miss her, but I was grateful to her, because she'd been brave enough to run when she saw the truth, brave enough to accept help from a stranger, brave enough to fight back when fighting seemed impossible. She'd saved herself, and in doing that, she'd found everything that mattered. Adrian squeezed my hand. The officiant asked if I took him to be my husband. I do, I said. And this time, I meant it. 5 years later, we're still building. The foundation in Alex's name has helped hundreds of people. Sarah's nonprofit has expanded to 3 states. I run programs helping women rebuild after financial abuse. Adrian's fully invested in legitimate business, using his resources to create opportunities instead of destroy them. My mother and I have coffee every other week. It's not perfect, but it's real. My father reached out once, about a year ago. I ignored it. Some bridges stay burned. Claire got married last month. To someone decent, someone kind. I went to the wedding. We're not close, probably never will be. But we're civil. Sometimes that's enough. Marcus is in federal prison. He'll be there for another 7 years. I don't think about him much anymore. He doesn't deserve the space in my head. What started as the worst day of my life, finding my fiancé with my sister, losing everything I thought I wanted, turned into the best thing that ever happened to me. Because it forced me to choose myself, to fight for myself, to build a life on my own terms. I learned that freedom is worth more than security, that being loved for who you are beats being valued for what you're worth, that sometimes the scariest thing, walking away from everything familiar, is also the bravest. And I learned that sometimes the person who finds you at your lowest point, when you're sitting on church steps in the rain with nowhere else to go, turns out to be exactly the person you needed all along. Not because he saved you, but because he gave you the space and safety and support to save yourself. That's the real love story. Not the one I thought I was getting when I said yes to Marcus's proposal, but the one I built with Adrian, brick by brick, choice by choice, day by day. The one where I chose myself first and found someone who loved me for it. That's how a freezing night in Miami, a ruined wedding dress, and a dangerous man with kind eyes turned into the beginning of everything that mattered. And I wouldn't change a single moment.